Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Committee on Ordinance for Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. It's now 6:33 p.m. The members present are myself. I'm City Councilor at Large Rebecca Lisi and Chair of this committee. To my left, we have Vice Chair Juan Anderson Burgos from Ward 6. Following to the left, we have Ward 2 City Councilor Terry Murphy. And on my right, we have Ward 4 City Councilor Libby Hernandez. We're joined online by the fifth member of this committee, Linda Bacon, as well as City Councilor at Large Joe McGivern. We have a number of public hearings to take care of this evening and a number of agendas, so I'm hoping to move as straightforward as possible through the agenda. The first public hearing that we have is a zone change application for the Cherry Hill Estates condominium. They are presently working with the planning board on their public hearing for the planning board, and then after that they have to have a public hearing with Westfield's planning board. So we're going to leave that on the table until someone from that group is made available either via Zoom or in the meeting here. So moving forward in the agenda, I'd like to entertain a motion to take up item number 2.
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item number 2 is a public hearing. This is for a special permit application of Candlelight LLC to operate a marijuana manufacturing establishment at 532 Main Street, Suite 301. Is there somebody here representing Candlelight?
Yeah, hi, my name is Isaac Fleischer. I'm here on behalf of Candlelight. I'm their attorney, and I'm also accompanied by the founders of Candlelight and their architect, Noah Modi, as well.
Great, thank you so much. So this is a special permit application for a manufacturing establishment. Do you have a presentation to walk us through?
Well, we'll try to keep it pretty straightforward. All of the material should already be in the hands of the Ordinance Committee, and we've received a review letter from the Planning Board, which we've responded to. But just in a quick summary of what's being proposed here, as you said, Candlelight Genetics LLC is applying for a special permit to operate a marijuana manufacturing establishment. They're going to be located at 532 Main Street, and they're going to be located in the 3rd floor only of 532 Main. It's a relatively small operation. It's a 2,000 square foot build out, and then within that they're going to be growing in about a 600 square foot canopy space. There's room to expand on that floor, I think up to about 5,000 square feet in total, but right now the plans that we've submitted only are for the 2,000 square feet of the space. They're looking to have about 1 to 4 employees there, so like I said, very small operation. And they have 5 reserved parking spaces in the lot. And they will be bringing marijuana in and out of they won't bring marijuana in, but they'll be bringing marijuana out of the space to licensed delivery vehicles through a freight elevator that they'll have exclusive access to during the times that they'll be bringing marijuana out of the building. I'm going to turn it over to Todd Don, who's one of the founders of Candlelight, just to give you a little information about their background.
Thank you
so much, Isaac. Hello, my name is Todd Don. I am CEO and co-founder of Candlelight Genetics. We are a gay-owned marijuana cultivation micro business, which I founded with my husband, Mark Rivera. We are applying to occupy Suite 301 at 532 Main Street in Holyoke, directly above the ACMJ facility. I myself am a 25-year music industry veteran, having run several successful recording studios, managing multiple artists, tours, and brands. And my partner, Mark Rivera, is currently operations manager for Maloney Properties, one of the largest real estate companies in the state, and previously worked for the city of Chicago for 6 years as a public safety and economic development. We are a small owner-operated facility. Will occupy about 2,000 square feet of space with only 600 square feet of canopy, which means we'll be able to handle all the day-to-day operations ourselves. Thank you.
And then just to walk you through the site plan and the floor plan, we're going to have Noah Modi, who is the architect on the project.
Thank you.
Hi. It's probably easiest if I just share my screen here. So, actually, I can't do that apparently.
We can give you that ability.
Okay. I can also share it. That's easier.
Yeah, our administrative assistant just needs to give you that sharing capability. That's Jeffrey Anderson Burgos, and he'll let us know when you're ready.
You should be all set.
Great. Let's see. Okay, great. And let me just make sure. There we are. And folks should be seeing a cover page for the Candlelight facility.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Well, as Isaac mentioned, this is the location, 532 Main Street. It is on the floor above ACMJ on the third floor of the Baustein building. In the back, we have reserved parking spaces, and we've called out the secured loading and unloading facility, which is directly adjacent to the freight elevator that they'll use. It is a small facility. These are their flower rooms, as they mentioned, 600 square feet of canopy space. And, they have the fairly normal complement of spaces for a facility like this, a lobby, an office, security office, cure room, vault, and flower rooms. And their CO2 will be stored just outside of their flower rooms. I'll leave it to, if it's necessary, I'll leave it to Todd to explain the actual growing methods if you guys would like. Other than that, we have some other architectural information in here that I don't think we need to get into too much, but I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I do have the letter from our planning department, and I see that you have responded to all the questions or details that were requested. Let me just take a look really quick. I was looking for, I see that you don't have a dumpster, and so I was just trying to find the information about where your refuse is going and how it's going to be handled. Here it is, on-site refuse management, I see it. So organic and recyclable materials are going to be redirected from disposal in accordance with waste disposal bans described by 310 CMR. Waste does not contain marijuana, will be stored in a locked dumpster outside of the building within the secured port as shown in the site plan. So do you mind pulling that up? Because I'm just not seeing where that is.
You're on mute.
Sure, just 1 second. That is just right in here. And, we don't have too much detail in there, but there's a lock-in gate right here. There's lighting, security cameras, and, a lock-in dumpster in a secured port.
So that comes right into the building, or is it a cutout with external gate?
It's recessed into the building with a gate that's flush with the exterior wall of that building.
Okay. That was the one thing that I was interested in seeing. Other than that, it seems, again, that you have responded to all of the questions and additional details that were requested by the planning department. The city engineer does talk about stormwater permitting, traffic impacts. They do see that it's going to be small in terms of traffic impact. On-site parking seems adequate, and site utilities. The property owner has recently modified the building piping to connect roof drains to the city stormwater system, and therefore no condition regarding separating the roof drains is required. So the building itself seems very much up to date. All right. Any other questions from committee members?
Yeah, I have some.
Council Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just a few questions for you. Number one, I know there is also a special permit request for Suite 201. I'm assuming Suite 201 is directly below 301?
That's correct.
And are you telling me that there are 2 freight elevators, one for each?
No, it's the same freight elevator. During delivery times, the different entities reserve the freight elevator in advance, so they have exclusive access and only opens on their floor at the reserved time. So same elevator, it's reserved by time.
So I'm assuming most of this is deliveries going out, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So and I just want to make sure I understand. So if someone came to do a pickup at 11 o'clock, but the freight elevator time was at 1 o'clock, they would have to be there, wait till 1 o'clock to get that delivery.
That's correct. I mean, the vehicles coming to do a pickup are going to be licensed marijuana transporters, and so they would have to be contracted with in advance. It's unlikely that they would show up at a time other than the time that they were scheduled for. And I believe that if they did show up at the wrong time, you're correct that they wouldn't be able to take a delivery until the time that the elevator has been reserved, because they do need to have that exclusive access to transport marijuana in and out.
So does that elevator only go to those 2 units, or does it go to other parts of the building which also will have access to it when it's not being reserved?
I believe it goes to other parts of the building, but Todd, do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, sure. The elevator itself is going to have a locking mechanism so that when we use it to transport product from our floor down to the scheduled delivery, no one can call or access the elevator because the doors will be locked from the inside, and then we will unlock them to get out going to do the delivery. In between that time, the elevator is open to anyone in the building that needs to use it. There are several elevators in the building, so we're not the only elevator.
Yeah.
There are no other large companies on our wing of the factory. So for all intents and purposes, as of right now, we have a vast majority of the access, but it's only locked when we're doing the transportation.
Okay, thank you. A couple other things regarding the waste disposal. It says here that it'll be regularly emptied by the Hoyoke DPW, but I don't think the DPW picks up at that business, to my knowledge. Is there a special contract for that?
There's several companies already there that trash is picked up from. So my understanding is that there's already trash pickup that happens there. But if we need to secure a special company to do it, we can easily do that.
Okay, and then probably a more prevalent issue altogether is the odor control, and I did, not that I have an understanding of all these fans and everything, but 2 things. Number one, I know we're talking multiple fans, commercial grade, 14 fans, commercial grade, can fan, air handling units. So have you observed these being successful in other places? And if so, can you provide us with some?
Well, you would have to go visit another facility to see them in work. But every facility in the country uses can fans for odor mitigation. They use them in 2 different ways, either an uncirculating system like ours, which recirculates inside air and doesn't ever go out, or ones where they vent out some of the air to help with the heat management. The way that our system is set up, all of our rooms are hermetically sealed, so the air is just recirculated every 3 to 6 minutes fully inside of the facility, and the timing just depends on the equipment and the heat as to whether we need to circulate it faster or slower.
Okay, so
Also mention that Candlelight has hired a mechanical engineer to ensure that all those systems are properly sized. When you do see, failure in odor mitigation, it's usually because the systems are improperly sized.
so one other last question. If we were to impose that should odor become an issue, that there would be some either strict penalties or shut-off standards or whatever until it's rectified. Obviously, your view is that this is not going to be an odor control concern, if I'm reading you correctly.
Correct. The way that the best practice in growing marijuana is to seal your rooms from outside air, so no outside contaminants like mold or other things can get on top of your plant. Okay. So there is never any air that contains any marijuana leaving a room that has marijuana in it.
Okay, and one last question that kind of relates to the same thing here. Knowing the building, having been in the building when I was a young person, and I've been in there recently when I'm an old person. But, obviously it's a very old building, so what are you doing to make it so that it is sealed airtight?
Yeah, sure. We're building walls inside, so our facility is being completely built inside. We're not using any external walls as our external walls. And it's a double drywall system with a sheet of plastic in the middle, which makes it basically airtight and hermetically sealed.
Okay, and you're doing that at your expense, not the landlord. Am I reading it correctly? You're doing that as part of okay. Thank you very much.
And for more details on that, I can direct you to sheet A103 of the plans. That has a wall section and a section through the ceiling as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Other counselors? Seeing that there are none, we should allow the public to speak, as it is a public hearing. I believe that we already motioned to open the public hearing. So is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against this project? Anyone online who wishes to speak can raise their hand and we'll recognize you online. I'm not seeing anyone here or online. I think motion is in order then. Motion to approve is made by Councilor Anderson Burgos. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the special permit. All in favor?
Aye.
We should amend with the
Conditions.
yes, the traditional 6.
And I want to try to add a 7th one regarding odor.
Sure. So I think that we have our administrative assistant with the 6 for us to reference. Let's just see. Jeffrey, do you have them handy?
I do.
Okay. Do you mind reading them into the record for us?
All right. Are there unaddressed issues in either of the letters that would need that 6th condition?
No. According to the engineer, everything looks good, and I think the, as I mentioned, the responses that we have are sufficient, and I think that we went into the details that were unclear regarding waste management and transportation of waste, and then also the odor mitigation.
Okay, so I can read the other 5. All right. Number 1, that the owner of the building always pay the commercial property tax rate to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for the duration of the special permit. Number 2, that the business retain a minimum 30% Holyoke residents for non-security jobs. Number 3, that the hiring preference be given to security personnel that are retired Holyoke police or are a retired member of another police department that now lives in the city of Holyoke. Number 4, there shall be no marijuana consumption allowed on site. Number 5, that the hours of operation be set according to city ordinances.
Okay, so those are the 6 universal conditions that we put on all applications. So is there a motion to,
I'd like to add a 7th condition that would create a timeline, should there be concerns regarding odor, that they will be corrected within 14 days, 14 business days. And if not, then the operation would desist until it can be corrected.
I'll second that.
the motion was made and seconded to create a 7th amendment, which would not be universal and in line with the others. So we'll vote on that. We'll vote on that amendment individually, and then we can move to vote for the 6 universal. So on the motion that was made,
Why couldn't that be part of that? I'm confused as to why that can't be part of this discussion.
it can be. We're going to vote on it separately. She seconded your additional amendment.
Yeah,
So we're going to vote on that separately. It's different. It's not part of the universal 6 that we put on every other.
well, let me just, they're not the property owner. So if the property owner isn't paying taxes, is their special permit rescinded? Because one of the conditions is that the property owner will pay taxes. That does not impact them. So, I mean, I'm trying to be specific to this operation as I'm going to try to be specific to any other operation. But, knowing what we now know, I mean, I think we need to consider additional concerns that need to be addressed beforehand. And I know, meeting with Planning and Economic Development, trying to find a solution to the odor issue and the odor concerns does need to be addressed. And that's exactly what I think we're trying to do. And I think we need to do that for every single operation that comes into being from now on.
Yeah, that makes sense. It seems like that would be additional language that we'd want to use in the ordinance itself so that it is universally applied, as opposed to picking and choosing which companies have to abide by this particular odor issue mitigation plan that you've created here. So, I mean, we could vote on it. We'll see what happens.
Can I say something?
Counselor Anderson Burgos and then Counselor Bacon.
So I just want to state for the record, ever since this quality of air and the smell has become present in our meetings, I have visited the marijuana manufacturing companies, and I have not smelled anything. There's no smell. And I understand that you're trying to set this up so that it would take care of a possible problem foreseen in the future, but as it stands, there's no smell at all. And I visited a lot of them, and I just think we're cherry picking as well. We're cherry picking which ones are going to have this, this 7 special stipulation, which is not fair, and that's just my opinion.
I respect your opinion, totally disagree with it.
Disagree.
I do.
Counselor Bacon.
Thank you. I want to speak in support of the condition because we've had documentation from people who are abutters to the manufacturing locations where they have documented issues and concerns around the odors emanating. And now that we are aware of it, it's something that I agree we do need to address specifically within the ordinance, but we have broad discretion relative to special permits. And I see no conflict between writing that condition on and what the applicant has put forth, because based on the description that we're getting from the applicant, I would think they'd be comfortable accepting it because it sounds like they have a very good system for a small, relatively small manufacturing project. So I don't really I just see that we are trying to deal with realities that have developed since we were one of the earlier communities to develop the marijuana ordinance in the first place. and we're running into some enforcement and other concerns about the language in it. So I support Councilor Murphy on this, and I don't think he's trying to pick on anybody. I just think he's trying to address current circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the committee? Counselors? I see a hand from Mr. Fleischer. Are you looking to respond to this point, Mr. Fleischer?
Yeah, yes, do I have the opportunity to respond to this?
Yeah, we're still in the open public hearing, so yes.
Thank you. I agree with Councilor Bacon that that this applicant is confident in their odor mitigation strategy and would have no problem committing to odor mitigation standards as a condition of their special permit. The way that it was phrased just now concerned me, though, for two reasons. One is that there was no objective standard. It's not clear who could make a complaint and on what grounds they can make a complaint. Odor can be extremely subjective. It can also, and people can imagine odors if they know that they're near a marijuana establishment. There are ways to objectively measure particulates in the air around a marijuana establishment or that are escaping from the walls of the marijuana establishment. And it's particularly concerning that this would be the only operator in the area that has this condition, because they're surrounded by other marijuana establishments, some of which are substantially larger than them. So if there was an odor issue, I would want some process for them to be able to confirm that the odor is not coming from them. Just because someone walks by in the street and smells an odor, there needs to be a procedure for the one and only operator with this seventh condition to prove that they're not the cause of that odor.
If I can, Madam Chair.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, just as I understand it, there in the ordinance, it does say based on a person with normal smell, that person could bring that complaint forward. That's as I understand it already in the ordinance. So that's in the ordinance for everybody. And I'm not, obviously we haven't done special permits for a while because we're trying to mitigate all these issues. And, I asked all the questions about the odor and how they were mitigating it. And I appreciate what they're trying to do and the expense they're putting into trying to make sure that they don't have the problem going forward. But I will tell you, based on the research that I have done over the last 4 or 5 months in cooperation with others, cannabis odors have been an issue in Colorado, in Vancouver, and a variety of other places. So it's not that this is not something that does not happen. And all I'm saying is, this is an opportunity for us to make sure that if it does happen, let's figure out a way to mitigate it and let's get it done right away. If we have a $50 fine or a $100 fine, is that going to be motivating someone to resolve the issue? Probably not. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to reiterate some of the points that I made when we were talking about this under the 200-foot buffer discussion from a while back, but these points are all valid. It's just not an appropriate way to address the issues with a single operator with a seventh, or in this case, it's actually a sixth condition. I forgot that we made some other changes that make it a sixth condition. So we shouldn't be doing it piecemeal. It should be wholesale, universal, and in the ordinance, and it should be applied evenly to all operators. So no one is denying that there is not a problem. It's something that needs to be explored, and someone has to follow the order. If there's that great a need in the community, someone needs to follow the order so that we can explore it and have a deep discussion and build it into the ordinance, not as an individual condition. I see one more hand from Mr. Don, And then I think we should move to close the public hearing. Mr.
I just had
Don.
a quick question about that additional amendment that we're talking about. My concern, outside of the fact that we would be the only one with a bunch of facilities around us, right, is also the time frame in which you gave us to fix it. Was 14 days something that through your research you found was a good timeline to get this fixed? What if there's supply chain issues? What if there's a variety of other issues? Are you just going to shut my business down?
I don't think it's clear, and I think it's, I mean, the motion was made and seconded, and we should look to vote on it at this point. I think we do have one other hand from a member of the public who wanted to comment. And that is, sorry, I have to look over here. Cocaine Givner.
Hi, my name's Cocaine Givner, 13 O'Connor Ave. I assume you can hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Ms. Givner.
I just was wondering if there have been any studies in Holyoke as far as the odors, because I also don't feel like it makes a lot of sense to make a blanket ordinance without actual research behind it. That's kind of mainly what I wanted to ask about, because I know other cities have problems with odors, but we're kind of in the beginnings of all this, and if we haven't done the studies, I don't know how much sense it makes to make rules about, you know, how far odor travels. So I was just curious about that. Thank you.
To my knowledge, there is no present study, but I do understand that Aaron Vega from Planning and Economic Development was working to perhaps find some grant funds that could assist in that. And I agree that any ordinance that's crafted should be using some data and evidence-based research. If there's no further comments, to the microphone, your name and address for the record. You need to turn the microphone on, just slide the button on top towards you, I think. The button.
No? Okay. Hi, Ruth Garcia, 253 Essex. As a resident, I'm just saying I pass around some of the places that you guys are mentioning, and I have never smelled anything. Now, if you go to the entrance of Holyoke, the smell is noticeable. It has nothing to do with it. I believe when anything that has to do with cannabis, it has a strong smell, but honestly, as a resident, I know how that smells. It's not like I smoke it, but let's be for real. I mean, you can notice when the smell is there. And if it has any health hazard to the public, it should be known and clarified, before even trying to bring a subject like this to the table. If it's not damaging to the residents of Holyoke, it should not be a big problem. Just saying. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Councilor Vacan with her hand up again. Councilor Vacan.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that in our current ordinance, we do address the smell issue, and there is a standard in there. And there's nothing to say that because we have 5 or 6 standard clarifications on our special permits that we can't add others. We've done that on many other special permits. So to say that we can't change those conditions is not accurate. And we do have some issues that we need to further clarify within our ordinance, because we define what the smell is and how it would be determined, but we don't have clear enforcement or authority lines within the ordinance, and those do need to be addressed. But there is nothing that stops the committee and the city council from addressing those through conditions on a special permit also. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, since this last amendment is new, there was a motion made and seconded to add this additional amendment. I'm sorry, we should actually close the public hearing before we make that action.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second. Motion has been made and seconded to close the public hearing. Yes?
You have another hand up.
Thank you.
You have another hand up.
Thank you. Mr. Jarvis? Name and address for the record if you'd like to be recognized, Mr. Jarvis.
Good evening. My name's Mark Jarvis. I own the building at 380 Dwight Street in Holyoke. I understand that there is a city ordinance that covers odor already. If marijuana is considered to be, the odor of marijuana is considered to be a problem by residents, it would be interesting to know how many have taken advantage of that ordinance to file a complaint concerning smell. That might be illustrative of the problem.
Thank you. On the motion then, that was made and seconded to close the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, so moved. So the public hearing is closed by a 5-0 vote. On the amendment, the final amendment to the approval of the special permit, which is the timeline of 14 days to mitigate any odor issues. The motion was made by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Bacon. All in favor?
I'm gonna, if I can, I'm gonna make an amendment in line with, I think it's Mr. Dion, and if I'm not saying your name right, I apologize. But in light of the 14, he obviously thought the 14 days was too quick, so I would extend that to be 30 days.
I'll second that.
So that was second. Motion is made and seconded to amend the amendment so to create a timeline of 30 days to correct any odor issues. And the second part of the amendment was if it's not made within 30 days, it would be asked to cease and desist.
Well, I'd be inclined to start with fines, but then eventually, so. But my hope would be that it would be mitigated within 30 days, but it would at least address that it has to be done. Right now, if there is a concern, we have no enforcement mechanism.
Okay, so on the amended amendment to include that a timeline of 30 days is required to correct any odor issues. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
The motion fails for lack of a majority. So on the universal 5 amendments regarding commercial property taxes, 30% Holyoke residents for non-security jobs, hiring preferences for Holyoke police or police who are retired and now live in the city of Holyoke for the security jobs. No marijuana consumption will be allowed on site, and no deliveries or retail medical marijuana shall be made from the site to individual homes, residences, or people. Yep. So on the package of 5 amendments, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No?
So it's a 4-1.
Two.
Linda, did you change your vote?
No, I said no because it doesn't have the additional.
Okay.
So 3-2.
So it's a 3-2 vote in favor of the approved special permit with the traditional 5 amendments. Motion carries. So that will be voted on by the full city council next Tuesday on the 21st. And then we are moving on in our agenda to the planning board is ready to meet with us on item number 5. So can we invite the planning board in? So for the Candlelight folks, I just want to make it clear that your special permit was approved with the universal 5 amendments that I read into the record with an amended reading. That'll go before the full city council next Tuesday on the 21st. So your business here is done. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Jeffrey, how are we allowing the planning board to join us as panelists or as attendees?
I've let them know they can come over, and as soon as they come in, I'll bring them in as panelists.
Okay. So we might move on out of order while they're coming in to item number 13, which is just some legal language that I think we need to update the job description for the administrative assistant to the city council with. This is filed by Councilor Murphy.
Okay, make a motion, we take up item 13.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to take up item number 13 out of order, suspending our rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved, 5-0. So this item is filed by Councilor Murphy, that Chapter 2, Article 2, Division 6, Administrative Assistant to the City Council, Section 2-181, Duties Generally, be amended to add an additional category of duties pertaining to the management and updates of the city website and social media accounts, including offering guidance to staff members of city departments on the use of the website as a records access and communications tool. This was taken up once previously on the 26th of October. Under discussion as the maker, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, our administrative assistant, who's got pretty good technological knowledge and website knowledge, has stepped up and assisted many departments in terms of making our website better, improving our communication, and I'm just trying to provide, because of the additional responsibility, a chance to give him an additional job title, which would obviously then put us in a position to potentially pay him more. We've gone through a process trying to make sure we do all this by the correct procedure. He has done this without missing an iota of what he needs to do for the city council. He's done a great job with that. And I would also say, it appears, and he may tell me I'm wrong, but I think I'm correct, that the interaction between our city council administrative assistant and the various departments has been a plus in terms of communication between departments and the city council and vice versa. So that, I think it's something he can handle. I don't think we need to have someone that's full-time doing this. I think he's capable of doing it at a much lesser expense, but also provides him with a little better opportunity for professional growth. So that's the goal of the order. I want to publicly thank him for stepping up. I asked him if he would consider doing it. He did. At that point, I told him I would try to see if I could get an ordinance change, and finally we got it here. So.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. I'll agree. I do think that the communication from the city council and between other departments has improved dramatically with the addition of Jeffrey Anderson Burgos. I think he's doing a great job as our administrative assistant and takes the work very seriously. And I think that he has demonstrated proficiency in taking on all these tasks, and I think we should formalize it with the legal language that's included. So everyone at the table here does have a copy of the legal language. It's at the bottom of the pile. I believe that the legal language is also circulated online. And so it's simply adding a section 6 as a subparagraph that says, manager of all city-based web communications. Manager of all city web-based communications. The administrative assistant shall manage all city internet and social media sites, including but not limited to the city's website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and any other social media sites that the city posts on now or in the future. Said duties include but are not limited to monitoring and updating the various pages of the city website and ensuring that public meetings and related records are posted and accessible to the public. This position also requires the administrative assistant to consult with other departments about the use of the city website and social media accounts as public records and communications tools. Anything further from any committee members, counselors that are joining us? Counselor Bacon and Counselor McGivern in queue. So, Counselor Bacon.
I have 2 questions. One is that I'm sure the mayor will weigh in because this is really under his purview, being a citywide function. And the other question that I had was, did the change in duties get put through the review by our HR attorney when it's looking at, is the level of work a higher level versus more work of the same level of the duties that exist in the position at this point? And I do think that Jeffrey's doing a fine job in his role, but those are just the questions that I have relative to it. Thank you.
If I can answer that.
Please, Counselor Murphy.
So, Councilor Bacon, yes, we did meet with our labor attorneys to go over this to try to make sure, and this is why it's taken so long, because we wanted to make sure that we did get it done with everything being, the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And so this has all come through within the last 2 months. We've really kind of finished all of this. So it has been reviewed by our labor council, and if I'm not mistaken, Attorney Degnan's here, and I think she can confirm that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And related to the question about the mayor, has our new mayor weighed in on?
He has not weighed in with me. So
thank you.
I'm pretty certain he knew it was being worked on, but as far as the final product, I don't know.
Thank you. Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Counselor Lacey. Just a few questions. Certainly in favor of this. I don't question Jeff's talent, and I know it's already shown. But number one, is Jeff in favor of taking on these duties, and who currently is in charge of the website?
So from what I understand from Counselor Murphy's previous comments, when Counselor Murphy was serving as our acting mayor, he asked Jeffrey to take on these responsibilities and Jeffrey's been managing them ever since. So it is really bringing the ordinance in line with the actions and duties that he's already taking on.
If I can, Councilman.
So no one was in charge of the website?
The person who had been left the mayor's office at that point, and at that point we were looking, and that's when I approached Jeffrey. We had talked about it beforehand. He did express an interest in doing it. He actually was, without officially doing some, he was actually assisting with some of it beforehand, and that's why he became the logical person to discuss talking to. He has indicated to me that both he enjoys doing it, he can do it, and works basically building a collegiality with all the departments as well as city council, and that he was interested. He just asked if he could do it, that it gets formalized, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Understood. I'd like to hear from Jeff. If everybody notices, Jeff is not in the room this evening, and recently Jeff has been put into the Wizard of Oz closet to take control of this broadcast with both the Zoom and the television control. This is a job description change that was not brought forward to the city council some years ago. It is not part of his job description of our administrative assistant. So I just want to make sure that Jeff is going to tell us he can handle all of these duties and not have any concerns about the duties that he currently directs towards the city council itself.
Jeffrey is on the meeting with us, so we can suspend the rules and allow our administrative assistant to respond to the questions that Councilor McGivern just raised.
So moved.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Under discussion, Jeffrey Anderson Burgos.
Sure. So When Andres left the mayor's office, and he had largely been doing a majority of this stuff beforehand. Part of what happened is when I took over this job, one of the first things I took over was kind of revamping the city council page of the website. And through that, developed a really strong familiarity with how the website functions, and just got really comfortable with it. And so when Andres left the mayor's office, it logically kind of jumped to me to take over those duties. And like I said, I'm very comfortable with it. As Councilor Murphy said, it's helped me, develop a really good working relationship with many of the other departments. And, like you said, I do enjoy it. It's kind of become a fun, creative side to the job, in addition to me continuing to handle the duties of the city council as I have been.
Thank you, Jeff. And to Councilor Lacey, I cannot find that draft ordinance online. Is there a salary attached to it?
No.
Salary?
No, that would have to be drafted separately and passed separately as a separate ordinance change.
Well, I wouldn't think the ordinance change would take place until the salary was attached. If I was a individual myself negotiating.
I think based on our past behaviors, we have heard that the job description needs to be changed before any change in salary or compensation would be associated with it. So this is step one of the two-step process. And again,
I've never, with all due respect, I've never heard that before from anyone.
It comes up regularly around budget time, and I do believe that this is one of the points that our labor counsel, Russ Dupre, was consulted about.
That, if I can, that is correct, and that was one of the things he wanted to put this together, and then once that was approved, he would be looking at creating, based on all the other aspects of the scale in terms of the grade level. And that's why he wanted an ordinance in place before he ended up making that decision or making that recommendation. And Attorney Degnan...
Is he with us this evening?
I don't think so.
No, the labor counsel himself is not, but we do have Attorney Degnan, who I think was consulted as well.
She's the one who put the ordinance together, I believe.
Yes, I can say that this matter was run before Russ Dupre, and I confirm what has been said, that Attorney Dupre wanted to get this ordinance with the 6th category in there before moving any further.
Is there a reason why, Kathleen?
No, I was not consulted about that, quite frankly. So I'm sorry that I don't know the answer, but all I know is that this is the way he wanted to approach it. Sorry, that's...
Don't be sorry. Do we get an answer by Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilor Lacey.
Thank you. So I'll just make a few comments here. I do want to support Jeffrey in his professional development, and if he enjoys taking on this work and he's able to manage all of these responsibilities as well as his responsibilities to the city council, then I'm in favor of it. I'll be voting for it tonight, but I will be deferring to Mayor Garcia if he sends a communication, because really I do think the city website is going to be something that our new Mayor Garcia should weigh in on if he wants to have control over it, and perhaps this language needs to be amended so that instead of manager of all city web-based communications, it's all of all city council web-based communications, and it's reined in slightly. But tonight I'll be supporting it, and we'll forward along to the full city council hopefully, and if there's other angles that we haven't considered in this meeting, then they'll be taken into consideration then. Is there a motion then?
I'll make a motion the order be adopted, the ordinance be passed.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt the order that's before us and the legal language in subsection 6. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So I'm calling that a 4-0 vote with one abstain. Okay, back to item number, sorry, where is it?
5.
Thank you. Back to item number 5, which is a joint public hearing with the planning board that we continued previously. We are now joined by the members of the planning board, and they'll need to open up their meeting here. Kate, it looks like you were talking, but you're on mute.
Wasn't talking, but I'm looking for our chair.
I don't think we can hear them. I'll go get them to come physically next to me.
Are they in City of Holyoke?
They may be.
No, City of Holyoke is Shannon.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can, yes.
All right,
I can't
good.
see you, but we can hear you.
Well, that's the best of both worlds. Yeah, I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing of the Holyoke Planning Board to discuss, or to actually reopen the public hearing of the Holyoke Planning Board to discuss zone text change for section 6.4 for signs to be in compliance per April 12, 2019 judgment induced by Councilor Lisi.
So moved.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay, thank you.
We also need to open our public hearing.
I'd like to make that motion, open the public hearing.
Motion is made and seconded to open the public hearing, which is continued last from 10:26 to review and amend section 6.4 of the zoning ordinance regarding signs. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. From what I understand, when we met last, there was an interest in convening a working group, as we've done in the past for other really complicated zoning text changes. And because many members of this body are not actually going to be serving next year, we've had a hard time, at least on our side, compiling or finding members to serve on that working group. So we haven't made any progress on item number 5, but it is something that needs to happen in order to come into compliance with the consent judgment and injunction. So I'm inclined to continue this 2 or 3 months into the future, and I don't know if the planning board has any preference or ideas about how to move forward from there.
Well, I guess, one of my concerns is we're talking about zoning text changes, and we're really, from our perspective, I guess, when it gets to signs, we kind of regulate, the size of the sign, the place of the sign, et cetera, but it's clearly limited. And if I recall, a lot of this discussion really got into more like kind of, messaging issues, speech issues, which really would not be the purview of a kind of a volunteer board. I think that would be more of a kind of a legal department issue.
I think that we have, from the multiple city departments that deal with the sign ordinance, including the planning department and the building department, and I'm not sure if the Board of Health weighed in on it also. But those, I do think that we have some draft language to consider, but I was under the impression that we were going to create a working group that was made up of members of both the planning board and the ordinance committee to review the draft language that was submitted. And we have not convened that working group.
I don't know, have we received any draft language?
I don't know if there was ever, I don't believe rather that there was any draft language.
No? I thought that when the order was filed.
Okay, and I guess to my remarks is, do we have all the right players on the working group, or should there be maybe, in this case, someone, and I know I say this, I know you're terribly understaffed, the legal department, but, you know, when you start to draft this stuff, whether or not it'd be appropriate to have some representation from there too.
I see Attorney Degnan has her hand up. Attorney Degnan, do you want to respond to Chair Kelly?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Yes, there is draft language. I reviewed the consent decree and I looked the ordinance and I saw what the problem is. So I did submit in legal form an ordinance where we simply delete, in conjunction with the consent decree issued by the court, the temporary signs should not be placed on or fixed to vehicles. Permanent signs affixed to vehicles are exempt from this section. And then there's another provision. No I guess I don't know if you need me to read the whole thing. I'm hoping that you have the legal language, the legal form, because it was submitted. But having this complies with what the court wanted. And it was a free speech issue. And that's what the court found, that there was a violation in this ordinance. And that's why the court ordered it to be changed.
Okay.
Well, staff and the board has never received that.
Yeah.
No, and
So could
we don't have it either. We have the order, but we do not have the language. And
So could that probably be forwarded to the ordinance committee and the planning board?
Yep.
Because we don't, it sounds like none of us have seen that.
So, Chair Kelly, it seems that what I'm hearing you saying is that you'd like the working group to consist of additional members beyond ordinance and planning board members.
Well, it may not be necessary now, because what I'm hearing is that they have reviewed, I guess, the proposed changes, and it sounds like legal's comfortable with it. It just that none of us have seen it. So we may not need to expand the group at this point, but I think the first step would be to see the communication with the languages that's been approved. And I think also, Councilor Lisa, you make a good point that there are going to be some changes, so we probably should, I hate to keep kicking this can down the road, but the working group was really never put together, so we probably should defer this until the new council is sworn in and there's appropriate opportunity to set the different committees in place. And at that point, we probably should then reconvene the working group or get the working group going. But I think it's something that probably is something we should continue around February or so.
Yeah, so I would say either February 22nd would be the final Tuesday of February, or the first Tuesday of planning ordinance meeting would be the 8th of March.
Okay. Well, I think maybe I'm comfortable looking at March 8th if that's agreeable to others, you know, on the meeting. I think that will give the, you know, the new council, whatever the committee's makeup will be, ample time to get settled in place and give us enough time, all of us, to have reviewed the approved language from the law department.
I'm agreeable to that, but we would need the full body to agree. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I guess we both bodies would then need, I guess, a motion to continue the public hearing to March 8th, 2022 at, what, 5:30 p.m.? 6:30 p.m. 6:30 p.m. I'm sorry.
Can you make that motion?
Okay, I'll start then. I'll ask anyone on the planning board to make a motion to continue the public hearing to March 8th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
I will make that motion as long as I stay unmuted for long enough.
Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
I'll
Thank
make
you.
the motion for ordinance to continue the public hearing to March 8th, 2022.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to continue the public hearing to March 8th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's a 5-0 vote. Attorney Degnan, can you please circulate that language to both Jeffrey and also to Sharon?
Yes, I certainly can. I'm a little bit confused because I sent it to City Council on October 28th. I did not send it to planning, so I'll certainly do that, but I will send it to Jeff so that he'll have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so looks like we're back in regular order.
Make a motion to open the public hearing for item 1.
Motion's been made and seconded to open the public hearing for item number 1.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Ms. Krukemeyer, do you have your hand up for us? You're on mute.
Never mind. I understand we're leaving because or do we have to close, Chair Kelly? Are we done?
No, we continued.
Okay, we're good. Oh,
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. So item number 1 is a public hearing for a zone change application from R1 to RM20 for Cherry Hill Estates Condominiums Trust at 1 Maple Crest Circle, to change the back 6.7 acres from R1 to RM20 for one contiguous zone. We do have the applicant present. And I think that there were a couple of questions that we have to address from the last public hearing. But why don't you come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record? You need to just slide the on button. There it is.
Good evening. My name is Paul Gallagher. I'm a trustee at Cherry Hill Condominium Estates, and my address is 1763 Northampton Street in Holyoke. And I'm accompanied by Michael Schaefer of Huntley and Associates Engineering.
30 Industrial Drive, Northampton.
Thank you. So we understand that you have already, is it completed the public hearing with the planning board?
Yes.
And they closed it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And can you update us on what took place there?
Oh,
Okay, I missed the very last part of it because I was trying to do 2 meetings at once. But so it's my understanding that the board is taking a look, taking some time to think about it, and they're going to make a decision at the next meeting, or I missed that part?
yeah, I believe so, on January 11th.
On January 11th, that's right. On January 11th, they're going to make the meeting. It appeared that the majority of the board was in favor, but I don't want to speak for them. I'm sure they're going to tell you what they felt. I know there was at least one person that was not. But we made our presentation there to them, and they are going to be talking about it and discussing it and making their final decision on the 11th. You want to add to that? That's about, like I said, I missed some because I was at another meeting.
And I understand the other meeting was a planning board meeting for Westfield?
Yes.
And I'm not under the impression that the property is that close to the border, so why was that?
No, that's totally separate property. 2 different projects.
Okay.
I just had to be at 2
You
meetings
just had to
at
be in
once.
2 places. It wasn't
Correct.
the parcel that was in 2 different
Thank
places.
God everything was Zoom because I could look from computer to computer.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you. It seems that what's in order here is that we continue this public hearing until we get some information from the planning board in terms of a recommendation, and then we could comment and discuss that. But of course, it's a public hearing. Any member of the body that has a question can ask the question, and members of the public that want to speak in favor or against are welcome to as well.
Sorry, you said you had a couple questions yourselves?
We're going to see if there are questions.
Oh, okay.
Are there questions from committee members?
I'll just comment if I can.
Sure, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, I know our administrative assistant sent out to various departments asking if there were any concerns about this, and as I understand it, there were no concerns expressed. The planning board did speak, or the planning director did speak about it, but not with concerns. It is very clear to me that there is a market for what they're trying to do there. All you got to do is read the real estate directives in Holyoke every week. There seems to be 1 or 2 units that are sold each week. So there's clearly a demand. As long as we are not jeopardizing any environmental wetlands or things along that lines. And obviously we can't, if there's things there that would be wetlands, we wouldn't be able to develop on those. But it would seem to me like this potentially is a chance to expand our tax base, to provide homeowner opportunities for more residents to come to Holyoke. So I won't be around when it comes time to a vote, but it seems to me like this is a proposal that makes sense. I've had nobody contacting me saying, neighbors or anything along that line, saying that they have any concerns. So based on that, I would think this certainly has a good chance to be a positive thing for the city, and I thank you for your investment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. I would just like to make a comment also. I think we're in a bit of an unusual situation here with this property because they've already gone through, I guess, in the fairly distant past, an approval not required merging of what was 2 lots. So we now have an unusual circumstance where we essentially have 1 lot that has 2 zones on it. So I'm sort of seeing this more as a cleanup, because usually when people do approval not required to merge properties, it's for the purpose of changing the zone. So I'm not sure what happened in the past. In my discussions with the property owners, they're not either. So I'm sort of seeing it as bringing the property into sort of proper zoning line. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to comment? Seeing none, we should continue our public hearings to a date after the 11th of January.
I'll make that motion. January.
January 25th.
You're not sure. You're not exactly sure when the ordinance committee is going to be put together, so you might want to delay another couple of weeks just to make sure.
February, the beginning.
You don't want to have a meeting and not have a committee.
I think the 25th of January should be enough time.
Yeah.
So it would be a motion to continue to January 25th at 6:30 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Motion is being and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this is being continued until January 25th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming down.
I'll be in New York City for, I won't be here. Do I need to be here for that?
You can zoom.
You could zoom
I can
in.
zoom in, right? Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Take care. Happy holidays.
So
Good night.
continuing in regular order, we're on item number 3. This is an order that the City Council consider adopting a wage theft ordinance for all contractors doing projects for the city or receiving special tax incentives by the city, similar to East Hampton and Springfield, with the following purpose: prevent misclassification of employees as independent contractors, assure that employers are paying payroll taxes and workers' compensation premiums, comply with state laws governing the payment of prevailing wages, and assure that contractors provide opportunities for Holyoke residents, veterans, people of color, and women. Did we motion to take this up?
Motion to take up item number 3 off the table.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. So item number 3, wage theft, and the attached language is before us. And the language is, it's black and white for us, but it is redlined, so you can see some of the points of clarification that Attorney Degnan had made to the document. We do have representatives from Local 336 here, and I believe some other citizens who are interested in commenting on this item. So I will allow for public comment. Through our other conversations, I know that one point in particular that was a sticking point due to the way that the legal language is written. I'm looking for it here. It was in section, what is now called 18-95, tax relief and tax relief agreements. And it was section 7, I believe. So it looks like section 7 was deleted in its entirety because it's basically redundant and it caused a lot of confusion, where people were interpreting the language of having to comply with Mass General Law 149, section 26, which is the prevailing wage legislation for public contracts of $50,000 or more. It was being interpreted as if anyone who received a TIF had to comply with that section, and it's not the way it was written, but because it is redundant, it's easy enough to delete that section altogether so that it provides more clarity to what's being asked for in this particular section. Are there comments from committee members? Seeing none, Councilor Bacon?
I'm just going not to repeat the points that have been made before, but just that I maintain the same opinions. Thank you.
And if I can.
Sure, Councilor Murphy.
So I'm in favor of most of this. And obviously, I'm definitely in favor of making sure that employees are not discriminated or cheated in terms of what they deserve. But I do think it just seems to me like it's much longer than it needs to be. And one of the things that, and I know if I'm reading this correctly, point 6 is the contractor should not discriminate against citizens of states or the Massachusetts. The contractor shall give preference to residents of the city of Holyoke, and the city shall provide the contractor with local instructions. So, to me, I would much prefer, if we want to create a percentage of Holyoke residents that are going to get jobs, because I think if we provide that percentage, we are dealing with both affirmative action because of the residents of the city of Holyoke, number one, and also, but my major concern here is just making sure that all of our contractors that come in live up to the obligation to treat employees correctly. And I have had some cases where people have come to me and indicated that they were unable to get their last couple of days' pay. They were told they can't do this, they can't do that. So those are the kind of things I want to make sure. If a contractor wants to work in the city of Holyoke, if somebody wants to get a tax break in the city of Holyoke, I want to make sure that we do follow the procedures. But I really would like to see a significant portion of this language somewhat eliminated so that we just really make that point. We want Holyoke residents to be the priority in terms of hiring. We want to make sure that the employees are treated as employees and not discriminated against in terms of any wage or anything along that lines, that all the insurance aspects, the workers' comp aspects, all of those things are part of it. And if somebody violates it, that there would be consequences, and if they violate it again, there would be more consequences, and ultimately they would no longer be able to do business with the city of Holyoke. So, I mean, that's been my goal from the beginning, and I just would like to see us kind of make that the highlighted point and get that out there. So.
Thank you. So as I'm reading through this version, it actually looks different from the last time I had a chance to read through it. And I would agree that, for example, section B that carves out the definitions for people of color, and then relatedly, section 7 and, sorry, I should say subsection 7 of A, it spells out all of the diversity requirements, and I don't think that is a productive way of writing the ordinance. I think it should just say, shall meet the employment diversity goals equal to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts diversity goals. Because if the Commonwealth's diversity goals change, we would have to change our ordinance, and we don't want to have that disconnect. So I actually prefer the text that's crossed out as opposed to the bolded text that was added to subsection 7. So I would say that moving on, there's a corresponding spot in section 2, subsection, or this, yeah. So it's the tax relief and tax relief agreement section. A9, which the crossed out language is actually the preferred language. But other than that, it looks really, that addresses all the conversation that we've had previously. It takes out all the pieces. It says that the city is responsible for conducting an investigation. We are simply going to be the recipient of the payroll documents that are being requested. And then says that if there is a finding of wage theft, that there is the ability for the city to, number one, take back their tax incentives where they were given, and also preclude the violator from bidding on public contracts for the next up to 3 years if there's multiple violations. So if I may, in keeping with the points that I just raised, I would motion to strike, we could have a discussion after this, but my motion is going to be to amend the language before us to strike section B in its entirety. To use the striked out language in the first section A, subsection 7, and again, the strikeout language for the tax incentive, section A, subsection 7. Is there a second?
I'll second that, but can I also make another amendment that in number 6, which would be on the, I think the very first part, where it does specifically talk, shall give preference to residents of the city of Holyoke, I would like to have, with the goal of having, just like we do with the cannabis industry, if I'm not mistaken, we look for 30% city employees. So I think if we do that kind of thing, that also deals with, because of our the makeup of our population, it also deals with some of the issues in trying to encourage people to hire people from different racial and ethnic groups, and also veterans. But I just think if we put that 30%, I think that it's a goal. If someone gets 25%, are we going to say, well, you didn't live up to it? We don't do that with the cannabis people. That's just the goal. But I think that does indicate our desire to get more Holyoke people hired. But I agree, and I think you agree, that the major part of this is to make sure that contractors are living up to the standards in terms of their employees. And that's the ultimate goal of the reason I filed it. So but I would make that as a friendly amendment.
Sure. And so what I would write down as part of the amendment then, it says shall strive to meet a 30% hiring requirement of city residents.
Yep.
Of residents of the city of Holyoke.
Yep.
So it's going to say shall strive to hire 30% residents of the city of Holyoke. There's likely a corresponding 6 in the second section. No. Okay. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan, I see your hand up, and then Attorney Degnan, I'll go to you as well.
If it's number 8.
Thank you.
Shall give preference to residents of the city of Holyoke.
I knew it was
So
there.
I just have a question. So if we pass this ordinance, is there anyone that's aware of a company that would would be affected by this at this time? I mean, in all the hearings that we've had on it, or meetings, I should say, we haven't really had examples of companies that would have lost their TIF in all these discussions that we've been having. Is anybody aware of one? It just seems like we're adding another level of bureaucracy to do business here in Holyoke. So I'm wondering if anybody knows.
I'm not sure if you're asking if anyone's at risk or would be at risk. Or
No,
if
I'm asking if anybody knows of a company who was found in violation that we've given a TIF to, who would have been denied, or that the TIF would have been withdrawn if we had this ordinance. I'm just looking to try to assess what the effectiveness of it would be.
I would defer to one of the representatives of Local 336 who has more of the like statewide data.
Well, no, I'm really not asking the proponents of the ordinance. I want to know from the city if we have experience or knowledge of any companies who would have, if this ordinance had been in place in the last year or two, would have had their TIF removed if this was in effect. I'm just not aware that we have an issue in this regard, and I'm just trying to find out. I like to create ordinances to accomplish a need. So that's where I'm coming from with my question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I've made this point previously that the language here is really not supposed to, punish people. That's not the goal. The goal is to say that you would get punished if you're found to be a cheater. And so it's to create a very high disincentive for cheating, because the penalty is so high. You would lose a TIF, and you would lose potentially your ability to bid on city contracts. That would be a strong enough incentive to make sure that people do not cheat moving forward. And I think in the very first conversation that we had, we heard how many thousands of wage theft complaints are made at the state level to the Attorney General's office. So I think that there is a likelihood that somebody could have been a violator, but to be exact and tell you yes or no, I think is very difficult, because we just haven't been generating that data through our conversation along the way.
Well, just to be fair, I mean, we are all aware of Eric Shore. So I think we would have become aware if it happened specifically here as well. And so I take your point, I take your argument. I just don't agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Attorney Degnan, do you want to comment on this?
Yes, I would.
We would need to suspend the necessary rules to allow that to happen. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Under suspension of the rules, Attorney Degnan. And then under the suspension of the rules, we could allow for public comment. I would ask people to limit their comments after Attorney Degnan to 1 minute. Attorney Degnan.
Yes, thank you, councilors. Just a note, really, because I did review East Hampton, Springfield, and Amherst. And the reason for the bolded language, and obviously if you want it out, that's certainly not a legal issue, but the Department of Labor put forth a bulletin, it's called Bulletin Number 14, that contained this language. And I think it's for the purpose of striving to meet diversity levels. So I just wanted to note that that's why it's there. But if you want it stricken, then that can be done too. And that's it.
Thank you. I appreciate that you found out what the present diversity goals are in that memo. I think that, as I stated earlier, it allows us to have a more resilient ordinance if we don't put the specific numbers in, but we just say that we're going to mimic the state's diversity goals. Under discussion, if there's members of the public here who wish to comment, you can come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Again, I will be keeping time. Slide it towards you, Helene.
Yeah. Good evening. Helene Florio from Holyoke Taxpayers Association. We've taken a close look at this, and we feel that it's a cumbersome, overreaching solution looking for a problem that doesn't exist in the city at this point. We already have almost every piece of this built in already to the contracts that anybody has to sign off on if it's a purchase, if it's something that goes through an RFP through the purchasing department. And if there are a few things that you want to add to tweak without a whole new level of bureaucracy, that's what we would suggest that you do. Very simple. It's all there. And everybody that is purchasing anything that way here in the city, which this would cover, already has to sign off on it.
And that's your time.
This is sort of something that is over and above and far-reaching. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Name and address for the record.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Payne, I'm business representative for Carpenters 336. I actually live in Chicopee. I represent 29 families that live in Holyoke, 29 members that rely on working in construction. This is a prevalent problem in construction. One of the data sets that I sent to the Chamber of Commerce for them to review was one of the most extensive wage theft cases that I've seen, and it involved $469,000 stolen from workers. 2 of those jobs happened in Holyoke. Excuse me. Neither were TIF jobs. They were both public jobs, prevailing wage jobs. And one of the rare occasions that the Attorney General actually sent $529,000 in fines to go with the $469,000 in wages stolen because it was such an egregious case. That contractor went out of business. Now, they worked for 2 separate contractors in the city of Holyoke. And,
That's the time, so.
Okay.
But there were at least 2 cases within that large case that was brought forward with Holyoke employers. So this is an issue that is happening here in Holyoke.
Yes, and
Not with the TIF.
not
with the TIF.
Oh, that was actually about 2 or 3 years.
The question was how long ago was it, and it seems that the response was about 2 years ago. We should allow the next speaker.
Well, hi. I'm Nancy Capron, and I live at 72 Congress Avenue, apartment 1L. And, I'm in favor of the ordinance. I work as a contractor. I think I'm considered a private contractor for education. I've worked for 10 years for a company, and, it's hard when people miscategorize you. I feel like, and I make very little money. I made $85 today, and I'm exposed to COVID, and I think I'm supposed to get the paid time off. And I called the AG's office, and they didn't want to take the case. And when I've come back, I don't know if it's COVID or nothing, or what it is, but I'm now accruing paid time off. And when I first thought that I was going to accrue it, I danced around my apartment, right? Like danced, because I was making $70 a day then. And, I dragged myself in sick and stuff like that. So I know what it's like when somebody miscategorizes you and cheats you of your benefits. It's hard, You just feel like you're not appreciated, and it's wrong. And anybody that cheats should pay the fine.
Thank you.
Right?
That's your time. Anyone else wish to speak? Come forward to the microphone, name and address for the record.
Hello, Ruth Garcia, 253 Essex. The majority of folks impacted by wage theft is poor Black or brown folks. We don't all know that the process to address wage theft, so to say we don't have a problem is an inaccurate statement. This ordinance will make it clear that the city of Holyoke supports the working class. Another thing to add to that is, like, as a taxpayer in this place called Holyoke, our home. I would love to see, companies come and invest and benefit residents of Holyoke, and I love the fact that you guys are pointing towards being inclusive. You want to include folks, and that's amazing to see. I commend you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else to the microphone? Name and address for the record.
My name is Scott Goulding. I live at 19 Quinn Drive. I'm a 33 member of the Carpenters Union. I've been fortunate enough to have them represent me and be a member and raise my family here in Holyoke, working for contractors like Dan O'Connell, who's a Holyoke contractor. The thing is I've been fortunate and had that protection. I've seen over the years way too much the people who are more in the lower sectors and underground where they're not represented. They don't have somebody to stand and speak for them, and these things do happen all the time. We're not really asking for anything outrageous more than just a way to have some more enforcement on it, and to recognize the fact that there is a problem. I don't think it's going away, and I think that unless we start doing something about it, it's going to continue. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here in the chambers wish to speak? We do have one hand up online. This is Jordan Hart.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Jordan Hart. I live at 213 Beach Street in Holyoke. I'm the executive director of the Greater Holyoke Chamber. I do support the wage theft ordinance. I do feel that it's a way to secure jobs and provide good jobs in our city, and I don't think that it should be a deterrent for any investor or developer. If they're already abiding by the rules, then it shouldn't deter them from continuing to support jobs and to support the workers in Holyoke. So I just want to speak in favor of the ordinance.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here then?
I'll make a motion that we pass the ordinance as amended and send it to the
Second.
law department to be drawn into final legal form to present to the city council on Tuesday.
Second.
It's not a public hearing. Motion is made and seconded to adopt the legal form as amended to be presented to the full city council next Tuesday on the 21st. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. I'm sorry, any opposed?
I'm a no.
4-1 vote to approve. Okay, continuing still in regular order.
Motion to take up item number 4 off the table.
Motion has been made and seconded to take up item number 4. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Item number 4 is an item that was filed by Councilor McGee, that the City Council amend Ordinance 2-69 by striking Section G2 from the ordinance. That section states, no employee of the city shall simultaneously serve on the City Council during their time of employment. This passed out of our Ordinance Committee 2 weeks ago, but it was referred back by the full City Council at last week's meeting. It was referred back by a motion of Councilor Sullivan, and it was seconded by Councilor Murphy, because they objected to the complete strikeout and wanted to amend it further. So I'm wondering, is Councilor Sullivan's not here, but Councilor Murphy, do you have suggested amended language to add?
Well, I've looked over what we had presented to us. There's 2 options that came out, but the first one I just don't think is enough. The first one, which was basically department heads, and the second one, I mean, my concern is I do think there's a need for some kind of standard, but as I look at the ordinance that came in, if you work at, basically, if I'm reading this correctly, if you work at the police department, you could be a city councilor. If you work at the fire department, you could be a city councilor. If you work for the Department of Public Works, you could be a city councilor. If you work any job in the schools, you could be a city councilor. If you work any place in the library, recreation department, wisteria hearse, you could be a city councilor. But you can't be a city councilor if you are in all the other departments. So, I mean, I think we have, and when and it was I that made the motion to send it back here, because I think, you know, we need to put together a thought process. The other thing that came up, and I know Councilor Sullivan brought this up at the meeting, you know, you could have somebody that's the president of a collective bargaining union that could become a city councilor, and that certainly creates a conflict. So, I mean, I think option 2 is a lot better than option 1. But I think there's a lot of things that need to be added there. And if I'm reading this correctly, I think there are people that are being excluded that may not have hardly any influence, and there's people that are not being excluded that could have a lot more influence. So I think we need to, and I'm just going to give you an example. So let's just say the Council on Aging. If you're a driver for the Council on Aging, you're prohibited from being a city councilor.
Right.
But if you're the assistant superintendent of schools, you're not prohibited. If you're the deputy chief of police, potentially you're not, and we don't have deputy, so a captain of police, you're not excluded. I mean, I think we need to iron out what the influence is, where the influence comes, and I think part of it was that if you supervise somebody, so there's a lot of people in a lot of areas that supervise people, but again, the second drafting, as I see it, starts the process, but I think it eliminates certain people that probably shouldn't be eliminated, and then it leaves out departments that should be included, at least in my opinion. So. You know, my goal here is to try to, and I've said this, and I've tried to be a uniter rather than divider, but this is an area I think, you know, has some meaningful discussion that needs to take place, because there are things that, you know, you got. I mean, I used to work at Holyoke Community College. I had. You know, people that asked me, and I was an alderman at that time, this is back in the days when it was Board of Aldermen, you know, can I do certain things? Which I was able to do, but, I mean, and luckily, I mean, it was President Bartley back at that point, so I mean, obviously knew the political environment as well, but, you know, I was able to do things, but if he had said to me, get this done, I mean, I'd be in a position, I mean, that's a, you know, a more, you know, do I say no to him? and then what happens? So there are those positions where you're being influenced by the people that are your supervisors or whatever. And if you are someone who supervises people, you're also in a position where, you know, your city council position lets you do certain things to advance your position. I think we need to come up with something a little more in depth than option 2, but I think option 2 starts the process going. But I think every department and all those that I listed were the ones that were not included in this ordinance. And I mean, I don't know why we would include the first ones, but not the last 7 or 8. I mean, that's just, I mean, everybody.
I don't know if I'm looking at the same thing as you, because my draft option 1 doesn't list anyone in particular. It just says, oh, you're talking about the second option? So you prefer the second option, or you prefer the first option?
No, it says section 1, so
No, it's an option 1 and an option 2, and it's trying to amend the same section. Yeah.
Well, option 1 only, as I'm reading it, only does department heads or assistant department heads.
Department heads, assistants, or any who assume the duties of department head, and then it also says boards and commissions appointed by the mayor.
I can't hear her.
She'll be right back, Lynn. She'll just move away from the mic.
So for option number 1, it says all department heads, any assistant department heads, any staff who may serve as a department head, and any municipal, anyone who's been appointed, first it says anyone who has access to confidential city employee records, privileged materials, anyone on a board or commission appointed by the mayor or city council, and as well as the administrative assistant to the city council. So all those categories shall not serve. I feel like that is a sufficient blanket. Do you have a copy, Tom?
So I'm gonna go, I am a sergeant in the police department. Eligible or not eligible?
I'm not sure. It depends on whether or not, only because I don't know the intricacies of the way that the police department is structured.
Mm-hmm.
So can a sergeant fill the chief's duties and responsibilities? That's how it's defined here. And do they have access to confidential employee records or privileged materials? It seems.
They might.
Yeah, I just don't know the details of that department. But I think that this provides a good overview. At the end of the day, this committee really supported the strikeout altogether. And so if we're working to create some more specific language so that we can pass it in front of the full city council, which was short by only 1 vote, this language seems to be, sufficient.
So there would be no prohibition for someone that's the head of a union?
They would have access to confidential employee records or privileged materials.
I'm not really quite sure in terms of why would they have access unless I granted them access?
Well, if they're the head of the union, and I'm not entirely sure, but it seems that, what's the word? The steward. The steward is the one that's advocating on behalf of the employee. So at least, if even the steward, who's under the head of the bargaining unit, has access to information that allows them to advocate on behalf of a member of their unit, then I would assume, again, I'm making an assumption here, but I would assume that the head of the unit would have access to that same information. So I see a hand from Linda Vacan, and then as the maker of the order, it seems that Councilor McGee would like to weigh in as well. So deference to the committee member, and then over to the maker.
So I think the discussion so far has shown the complexity and the number of considerations that have to be given if we want to change our current ordinance. And I don't think it's something that we can do in one meeting tonight with general draft language in front of us. Nor do I think we should be changing a law within this window of time, but should rather get into the new council and address ordinances for the future, not for one individual. So I think right now the city council upheld our current law. I think it is written clearly and simply for good reason, to avoid these conflicts and questions. And who would be the determiner of which position could or could not be eligible to run for city council? To me, this seems like a very slippery slope. I think you could be opening a door for discrimination, which job gets to run, which one doesn't. I just think there's a lot to consider here and a lot of perhaps unintended consequences, and we really need to do a full and thorough vetting in the new council. These are broad ideas, and we already see that we don't have a lot of information or knowledge that we would need to move forward. So I hope we will keep it in committee and give future consideration if that is the will of the new council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McGee.
Thank you very much. So when this was brought up the first time, I do believe the consensus by a lot of people was that the original one was too broad and encompassing, and therefore it had to be reviewed, which is what the committee did do based on the recommendation of myself working with the city solicitor, which then led to maybe we should help redefine that instead of striking it in its entirety, trying to come up with something that goes to the intent back to what I believe what the intent was back in 2017. And therefore, in speaking with the solicitor again to get options for the committee to go over based on the requests of the full council, the option number 2 was discussed first between myself and the solicitor, of which it kind of went with some of the discussion that was happening in the chamber, but we both felt that it seemed to be, naming all the people in a way that really wasn't what should be done. So a more general way of doing it, and something that the solicitor and I agreed that it flows better and kind of addresses what was brought up as some of the issues in the chamber, was option 1. I know there's confusion as to which one is option 1, which is option 2. So option 1, based on the way I received it in an email, was amending and having the following language: no municipal official as defined in B7, the department head of any city department, any direct assistant or staff who may assume the duty of such department head or are, and you can finish it off there, which is totally different from option 2. Option 2 actually goes pretty much by department and starts spelling out all departments. So option 1 was kind of the one that was agreed upon in order to provide some language for the Ordinance Committee to discuss. Once again, you could add to that, you could take away from that, however you want, but based on the comments and suggestions in the city council meeting and prior ordinances, this is what we were trying to get to you to, get to your wishes that you asked of.
Thank you. So based on the comments that I'm hearing, it seems that there really is an interest in having the new council dig their teeth into the details here and figuring out who's in and who's out. From my part, I think that the most straightforward way to proceed is to simply keep the original language that says no employee of the city shall simultaneously serve on the city council during their time of employment, except for those individuals employed by the Holyoke Public Schools. because we neither have line item budget control or policy control over that department. And then the new council can get seated, and the new council can dig into the details of how to amend the ethics ordinance that's under dispute here with more details. Under discussion, I see the wheels turning in Councilor Murphy's head.
Yeah, I'm
And then I do have Councilor McGivern with his hand up, so.
I'll defer to Councilor McGivern and let the wheels turn for a while.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Councilor Lacey. I just to remind, the reason I support amending or striking the ordinance is I believe Mass General Law, we need to get closer to Mass General Law, which allows our government to exist. The Mass General Law says that employees can run and take a position on an elected body, providing they don't take two salaries. I think when you create an ordinance, we all know we can create stricter ordinances, but when you create an ordinance that negates the Mass General Law, that can be challenged. And I voted in favor of this, and we'll vote in favor of this, of amending or tweaking this ordinance for that purpose. 8 city councilors did so last Tuesday. And I think getting something back in front of the city council before January 1st is important.
Thank you, Councilor McGivern. Councilor Murphy, I know that there's some individuals present in the public here who seem to want to weigh in on this. And if you don't have any comments, I'll suspend the motion to suspend the rules.
That's fine, that's fine.
Motion to suspend the rules to allow the public to speak. There are several folks here, so same rules as previously. If you want to speak, you just come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. And we have not made any significant changes to, the ordinance or the discussion here. So I'm inclined to just say, limit it to a minute again for this part of our meeting.
Madam Chair, could we have the same rule that we had at the last ordinance meeting for the councilors-elect that allowed us to speak?
As a member of the public, sure.
Well, to develop our point that we were given more than a minute, we were allowed to speak to, because there's a number of points here that I would like to make.
Right, and I guess my point is we really haven't charted any new territory to really, merit a whole new discussion. So I'm interested in allowing the public to speak with 1 minute, because we still have an extensive agenda to go through before the end of the year here.
The only thing I'll ask, Madam Chair, if you'll indulge me, to make the point, is I think to develop some of these points, I think I would need 3 or 4 minutes, and I think it's worthwhile, and I'm sure if the other councilors-elect would like to use that time, I think, I've sat here for 2 hours, and I'll sit here as long as necessary to have a few additional minutes. I think it's important. This is a very, very big issue. This is a very, in the history of the city council, this is a monumental issue that's being discussed, and I would like to develop some of those points, and I think they're worth hearing, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. So I still haven't had a motion made and seconded to allow the public to speak.
Second, to allow the public to speak.
So a motion has been made and seconded to suspend the necessary rules and allow the public to speak. I'm willing to do up to 1.5 minutes, since it does seem that we have a thinner group here than what we had previously. But again, we have a very extensive agenda. There's really not time for more than 1.5 minutes.
My name is Nancy Caper, and I live at 72 Congress Ave, apartment 1L. And I guess I feel like this has just become a very arduous process, and I feel like the onus probably is on the 2017 City Council that created an ordinance that was so vague, that this has happened. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, and I think that one of the councilors here said it was a reaction. It was a reaction to a rumor. And I'm just really disappointed that people, because I know some of the people in this room that are on the 217 council have awesome minds, super intellectuals. You know, that it didn't go farther than this, so because it's really caused the city a momentary amount of pain. You know, and I think that in the new cycle that things will get taken care of. I don't know if I can ask questions. Can I ask questions or no?
You can, it doesn't mean that we're going to answer them in this time.
So in the past, I've listened to city council meetings, and someone mentioned once, if you vote on something, then there's a period of time before you can and you come to a final decision, and I'm not sure whether it was yes or no, that there is a point of time in which you cannot address the situation again. Is that correct or incorrect?
It's
like if you voted yes if you go next week and vote yes or no, is there a period of time before it can be addressed again?
With special permits and zoning matters, there is a period of time of 2 years before it can be raised again. But
any other ordinance, it just the next week you could readdress it.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I guess I got a couple words.
Name and address for the record.
Israel Rivera, 25 Willow Street. I am the reason why we are here, right? I am the reason for the ordinance, myself and Jenny Rivera. I guess I am here to ask for whatever, because it's become a total S show. I'm not going to swear on the microphone. There's a lot of division being caused here because of this particular issue that has become monumental, even though certain individuals have served alongside other people while they were officers. But to me, it just becomes amazing to me that the council is willing to take it to an extreme level to try to exclude a particular part of the community from taking part of the civic engagement, democratic process, right? Even in some of the language that was in some of the ordinances, you're excluding people that are on a, like you said, a driver with their elderly services, right? Janitors, there could be cafeteria ladies that are working, or cafeteria workers or whatnot. Again, these are the people that are working to strive to get to the level of where some of you guys already are. And you guys have gotten to this level because of some of the influence that you gained on the council. It's funny how it's kind of flipping on somebody now, right? But I come here today to pretty much watch and witness what's about to happen.
We're at time.
And I'm gonna take a little bit of extra time because I feel like it right now, and I've seen other people do it all the time.
But if you want everyone to follow the same rules, we're going to follow the rules. So if you want other counselors to take 15, 20 minutes to make their points, and you're going to take your extra minutes now.
Just understand that I always take the loss.
Other members who wish to be recognized?
Jenny Rivera, 56 Mosier Street. I am one of the two, Israel myself, as you guys all know. I already gave notice, so I'll be starting a new job. I will be leaving the Holyoke Public Schools, so obviously this does not apply to me, so I'm in January 3rd. I don't think it has anything to do with ethics. I don't think it has anything to do with the ordinance or charter. This all comes down to our skin color, and unfortunately, it should not. That's all I should be saying.
Thank you.
I wanted to speak, Madam Chair, if there's, get on the list.
Sure. I'll recognize Councilor-elect Jordan, and you have a minute and 30 after you introduce yourself.
Thank you, ma'am. Kevin Jordan, 18 Raymond Avenue. First of all, on this last point, I would say everybody knows this is a 125-year-old rule. The ethics ordinance was on the books just to crystal clear, say no city employees, period. Before anybody, I never met any of these two individuals before. And this whole council voted unanimously, nearly, in overriding a veto to adopt this ethics ordinance. We studied it for months and months. We knew exactly what that wording was. And by the way, that wording came almost word for word out of the 2011 charter revision from the Charter Commission that studied it for years before they presented it and had experts come in that had studied this from many, many towns. And this just took the 125-year-old language and moved it in more modern wording. That's all that occurred here. This has always been the rule. And the reason that we have the rule, and I don't want to lose sight of why we have the rule, is because we're trying to avoid conflicts, serious conflicts. For example, one of the things that hasn't been touched on is, what if a department head tries to discipline a city councilor that works for them? Normally, if you're either disciplined or terminated, that's the end of your relationship with the city. Now I got to go face you. You're going to be overseeing my department. That's going to give them preferential treatment. And believe me, this has just as much to the schools. We've made it uniform. We've treated all employees the same. That's consistent with Section 23.
And that's time.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else online? Councilor Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to say that the doors to discrimination have opened. They're already open by striking the will of the people that elected these two individuals here to serve. And I have to say that I'm very taken aback that Jenny Rivera, which is a woman that was invested and is invested in the education of our children. I've seen her, how she enjoyed that job, that she had to quit her job to be able to serve in the council. That speaks volumes. And we're crippling our own people here. And I agree with her that it has to do with the color of our skin. I stand by that. And it's a big fight because they don't want to lose power. Thank you.
Councilor Anderson Burrows.
I think I've said enough, but a few more words might make me feel a little bit better. I don't know if that's possible at this time, but I will try. So the charter is 125 years old. Did you hear that? 125 years old. And this ordinance was crafted in the vision of the charter, right? In the vision of the charter, but to make it more modern. To craft it so it affects and protects what's in these rooms against what's out there. But what's out there? There's 50% Latino. So what I'm hearing is, let's create this ordinance that'll protect us in here from all the bad people out there. That's what I'm hearing. And I can't believe it. And I've said it once, and I'll say it again. I'll say it to my last breath. Only one person is interested in this. I've never seen someone so desperate. Oh, it chills me to the bone. And I promise this, I'm the kind of person that I am going to point you out every single time. I will address the pink elephant in the room like that. Yo no tengo pelo en la lengua. So si tengo algo que decir, lo digo. Y mi gente no van a sufrir en bajo de tu dedo. And if you don't understand that, that's tough.
I don't understand it.
I
Can you
have-
translate, please?
You know what? Too bad. You should have been here.
I have Counselor.
I am here.
I have Counselor Bacon in queue.
Yes, it is. Yep, okay.
I have Counselor Bacon in queue, and then I see there's still two people, members of the public who want to be recognized. So Counselor Bacon, then I see Mark Jarvis and Cocaine Givner.
Thank you. I am speaking to object in the most strenuous terms to any idea that the work we did to create the ethics ordinance was racist or that the current ordinance is racist. We developed the ethics ordinance to avoid conflicts of interest, regardless of somebody's job, color of their skin, et cetera, et cetera. The reason we did it was to try to have good government. We didn't do it at a time where any individual was affected, negatively or positively. We developed an ordinance that, yes, is supported by the charter. It more specifically clarifies the language of the charter, which was upheld by the voters when a review was sought by the commission. So for people to characterize our work and the work of the supermajority of the council that passed it is just wrong, it's misleading, and it is not true. And so people want to speak their perspectives, and I understand them, and I try to listen to them. But I will not have my intentions mischaracterized and remain silent. We all have choices to make, and it's our job to know the eligibility rules. And 2 out of the 3 counselors-elect have made their decision. And one at the microphone appears to want the ordinance to be changed for him. But I believe he has the same choice to make that the other 2 counselors-elect have already made. It's not to say that the law can't be changed, but I have not sat in this chamber and seen a law changed for one person. We have used process, transparency, open meetings, debate, and discussion when we crafted this ethics ordinance. It was not done in a 30-minute committee meeting to accomplish a stated goal, which we've heard at the microphone. So thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you. The 2 other members of the public with their hands raised are Mark Jarvis, name and address for the record.
Mark Jarvis, I own the building at 380 Dwight Street.
Yes. And did you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the conversation. We've heard a great deal about how hard everybody worked on developing this and how much thought went into it. And I'd just like to make the observation that if as a business person or a citizen, we have to come before the city council as a supplicant, we're held to a very high standard indeed. And it seems to me that if the city council had really worked hard on this and thought it out to the corners, they could simply have added a checkbox on the form that any candidate for city council has to fill in that says, I acknowledge that if I'm employed by the city, I can't take this position, right? It's just as simple as that. I really feel that the city council should own that the mistake they've made by creating vague and ineffective processes has effectively jeopardized the will of the people as expressed in an election. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. And I see Cocaine Givner and then JR. And don't forget, we're at so name and address for the record, and we're limiting to a minute and a half.
This is Cocaine Givner, 13 O'Connor Avenue. I think it's really unfortunate that the argument's being made that this is for one person. In fact, two people were the catalyst for this discussion. And if the charter were changed or amended, it wouldn't be for one person. It would be for all those that would come after them. For all the people who thought they couldn't run and didn't, and for anyone else who's otherwise qualified, but for the fact that they work for the school department. And also, this clear and specific ordinance that's supposed to enhance the charter or make a new ordinance that's around the charter. It's not clear and specific at all. If it was, we wouldn't be having all these discussions. We've been talking about this for months now. So it's not clear, it's not specific, and that's the exact problem. Why can we not create clear, specific language that says who exactly can or cannot serve, who works for the city, and have that be about what it was supposed to be? Officers of City Hall, someone who has control over a budget. You know, a teacher in a school system doesn't have control over a budget. Someone who runs a department doesn't necessarily have control over the finances that come from the city to control their department. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So the clear and specific, it is not. And for one person, it is not.
And that's time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. JR, name and address for the record.
Hi there. John Rivera, 2 Laurel. And I just wanted to second Mark and Cocaine's comments. If a great deal of thought went into this ordinance, I asked them, why are we having this conversation today with such vileness on the opposing side? I think a great more amount of thought needs to be given into this ordinance and all that. All in any future ordinances as well, and amendments. This is really the proof in the pudding of how our city council functions, especially of how it functioned in the previous years, months, whatever you want to really label as the time frame. But it's a representation, it's a reflection of how poor city council has been working at the last couple of years. The will of the people immediately should be given into thought into all these things. And again, I second Mark's comment on there should be a process for various conflicts of interest if that is in the case of if that is the goal.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to make a couple of comments here. First of all, as city councilors, we are human beings and we never have perfect information, and language is imperfect. And so while, we could put a lot of thought into an ordinance at one point in time, the way that it plays out over the course of time can be different than the way that it was theorized and written. And there's no, there's no intention to create problems or even have a racist impact, which I believe that this ordinance does. But it doesn't mean that the intent to be racist was there or the intent to exclude one group of people was there. I do think that the ordinance is written clearly. The charter language is vague, but the ordinance is written clearly. The problem with the ordinance is that it is overly broad and extensive. And we are in effect, as has been demonstrated with 3 people now since this ordinance has been drafted, being pushed out of either the running or the taking of the seats, which they have earned through the electoral process. It is the impact, unintended impact of the way that this ordinance is crafted is it's having a disproportionate negative impact on people of color, Latinos in particular. So I do think that as representatives of the community, it is incumbent upon us to make the changes necessary that allow the community's will to be recognized. I think the most expedient way of making the changes to the ordinance that will allow things to move forward, and then you can figure out if there's more or less detail needed. But it's, again, to keep the section as it's written: no employee of the city shall simultaneously serve on the city council during their time of employment, accepting, whatever the legal language is, accepting employees of the Holyoke Public Schools over which the city council has neither line item or policy control. That seems very straightforward, parsimonious, and a simple way to move forward. And if additional amendments are needed, they can be taken up in the next council term. Under discussion, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I just want to, first of all, I want to thank you for saying that when this was adopted, I was not here when it was adopted, so I don't know what the debate went on, but I do not believe it was intended to be discriminatory. I know there, and I was surprised when I found out there were quite a few cities and towns that have the same ordinance, Northampton being one, and I was pretty surprised at that. So it seemed like it was a legitimate thing in terms of that. And I really, I've tried to figure out how I could do the best I can to follow the will of the voters. That has been my goal here. But I think we just need to try to resolve that and not get into this person's rationale is to do this person's rationale is to do this, and this one's doing this. I do think an ethics ordinance makes sense. I do think having it streamlined makes some sense. But I don't think we should just be excluding the school department for that. And I think we need to have a more in-depth ordinance. Now, obviously, we're probably not going to get there tonight, but I do hope that the city council that gets elected and starts to serve will take a look at that. And while you may not think at this point the city council has any authority, you could have a situation where the goal is to dramatically expand the local control, local financial input into the school department, which would certainly have some input from city councilors at that point if we go beyond our mandate. And I know there's been talk about doing that. So there are things, and I think every department potentially has some conflict of interest. Now, how do we avoid that, and how do we do it? And I certainly don't have the answer. I've been looking at this, trying to figure it out. I got things highlighted, and what about this one? What about that one? But ultimately, we have to come up with something that makes sense, both from an operational standpoint and also so that we're not putting somebody, either a city councilor or an employee who works for a city councilor, in some kind of situation where they're feeling pressure that's beyond what they should be feeling in terms of making a decision. So, but I do appreciate the fact that you did bring up that this was not adopted in terms of discrimination. At least everything I heard about it prior to my coming on, that it wasn't intended in that way. So I want to make sure that we don't, that is not something that we put out there as this is why it was happening, because I don't think that's the case.
Thank you. I do want to just reiterate the point that intent and impact are different. And so while the intent may not have been there, it is having an impact, a racial impact. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. I just want to put on the record that the city council does have line item control over the school budget. It is a single line in our budget, and we have actually cut that line in the past. So all departments and all budgets come under the city council, and the only authority that we do have relative to the budgets is to cut them. We have no ability to add to them. Thank you.
But we don't have the ability to make specific cuts to specific departments that would be targeted by individuals that were potentially city councilors. So I do think that the language that I suggested is appropriate. And you know what? If we don't,
may be the case, but they still would be conflicted relative to their interest as an employee.
and they
Thank
would
you.
then abstain from that vote. If there's no further discussion, I think we need to make a motion to either move this, table it, or something else in between.
Motion to table.
Motion to table is not debatable. Is there a second? There's no second. The motion fails.
I make a motion to move it forward with adding that adding the language that no city employee should serve on the city council except for school employees.
Do you want to put the rationale in there because of the line item and policy control?
Yes. Second.
That motion has been made and seconded to amend the ordinance to say, with the language that says, except Holyoke Public School employees, because the city council has neither line item nor policy control over that department. That motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
It's a 3-2 vote in favor. So we'll request that to be drafted into legal form and put before the full city council, and we'll try it again next week. Continuing in regular order, we have item number 6. This is order that I filed regarding the creation of a retail center zone. Is there a motion to take this up off the table?
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to take up item number 6. We've seen this legal language before. I'm a little bit unsure about why we tabled it, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I don't recall why we tabled number 6. I think it was just getting late at the last meeting. So I am going to motion that this be adopted and drafted into legal form to be presented in front of the full city council at our next full meeting.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Under discussion. Counselor Bacon and then Counselor Murphy.
So to the extent that I understand this zone change is only the first step of then requiring a listed number of property owners to be subjected to the zone change once it's adopted. I want it noted for the record that one of our major property owners who has come in for serious abatements to their property value given current environment has indicated to the committee as part of the public hearing that they're okay with a zone change that would affect them if it does not take away any of their current uses that they enjoy under their current zoning. And a review of the draft as it sits before us tonight would take away uses from any property owner that is zoned BH. And I haven't done a full review of how much it would affect BG or BL, but it appears to affect all the business zoned properties in a similar way, in that it takes away a use they enjoy by right and gives the power to the planning board. So this ordinance that we have before us does two major things if the next two orders that are on our agenda, which it's all been filed as a package, come to play. And I seriously caution the committee and the council from doing this. If we take away business rights out of a business owner, property owner zoned BH, My prediction is they will object in every form that they can. And secondarily, if they do not prevail in that regard, they will immediately quantify the loss of their property rights that are put forth to be taken away from them by the city council. So this is sitting before us and appears to simply be a zone change, but this is not sitting in isolation. And I believe, because we have only heard from 3 property owners between now and going back to 2017, that most of the property owners listed are not, as a practical matter, aware that this process is even going on. So I cannot support this zone change as it sits right now. And my other objection is that we have an unelected planning board being given power that has historically and properly, under the balance of power that we need because we have a strong mayor form of government, takes the power away from elected officials and gives it to an appointed board, which I just don't think is good process or good business. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would also just like to make a few amendments in terms of some of the uses in terms of retail zone, and on the first page, 28, 30, and 31, which is outdoor commercial recreation. I would love to see that defined. I don't know what that actually means, but it says, in our outlet, it says it's a planning board recommendation, but then it may, on the chart, it looks like it's automatic. And then amusement park and motor car racetracks, speedways, horse and dog racetracks, and permanent outdoor concert facilities, also allowed by the planning board. I mean, I looked at the tracts of land, and I cannot see how we could want to put a motor car racetrack. If you live on Whitney Avenue, you live on Lower Westfield Road, you live at the Providence Mother House, you live at Mount Marie, and potentially somebody could put an auto racetrack, let's say where the mall is, could put an auto racetrack there. What kind of residential situation would that be? I just think those, I looked at most of the other, I'm relatively okay with most of the others, but those to me, based on the area that we are talking about, if they are, I would like to see them stricken. And I would also agree with Councilor Vacan. If they were to be maintained, I think there should be a special permit from the city council so that the entire public would be more inclined to offer their input. So I make an amendment that outdoor commercial recreation, amusement park, and motor car racetracks, etc., be removed from the ordinance.
Second.
I can support that. I'm just looking for, is item number 31 in the list?
Yeah, 31 is the motor car racetracks.
Yeah.
30
So
is the amusement park.
amusement park is also something that you want to eliminate?
Yeah, those two for sure. The outdoor commercial renovation, I'm not sure exactly what that means. So, but in one case, on this sheet, it says it's a special permit from the planning board, but on the chart, it says it's a yes automatic. So, I mean, I need to get a clarification on that.
Residential exempt in institutional uses. Where is it in the chart? What number is it?
Hang on a second.
Outdoor, I see 28. Outdoor commercial recreation, planning board permit. Amusement park, planning board permit.
Okay.
and 31 planning board
reason I
permit.
s- Maybe it was somewhere else I saw it was just an automatic yes, and maybe my glasses were
Too many
upside down.
lines.
Oh, no, number 28 here, or is this from,
1118.
because number 28 on this one does say, just yes. Whereas the other ones, the amusement park and the motor racetrack says special permit. Now, I don't know if I got it old, maybe this is an old one.
Mine is colored, and so maybe that's a little bit easier to see. 27 is yes, arcade. 28 is planning board, special permit. Is it your draft on 1118?
I don't know, but this one here, the arcade is yes, and the outdoor commercial recreation is yes.
Yes, it says outdoor commercial recreation, number 28.
Both-
That's weird.
People send it to me.
Do you mind if I just take a quick look? Yeah, it looks like
So it is by special permit?
it says special permit here, yes. And I don't know why it's a different document, so this is, mine is page 3.
I think this came up previously with these differences in these documents.
I missed it. It's fine.
This one's dated draft February 12th, 2018.
Right.
So that's the original.
That is
Mhm.
the original.
And this is what was
updated.
proposed, yeah, on 11/18 of this year.
Mhm.
I would show you my phone, but I don't think
No.
you'd be happy about that. Okay, so the amendment has been made to strike amusement parks and racetracks, 30 and 31 from the list of approved uses in the RC district.
And do we know what outdoor recreation, commercial recreation, what does that mean?
I would assume, and again, I'm making an assumption here, but it would be like ropes courses and like when you're
Like obstacle courses and all of that, and
zip lines.
zip lining.
Mm.
Although I don't see that happening in all of
There's actually, I think I received an email at one point, people that were interested in the land up by the quarry and wanted to know what was going on with it because they were interested in creating a ropes course up there. So it
So
is
I'll
possible.
make it for amusement park and motor race tracks and speedways and horse and dog tracks, so
Mhm.
I'll accept 30, 31 be removed.
Can I ask a question about the 31, the motor car race tracks and speedways? Because I know that in some malls, they have like the internal racetracks
Yeah.
that are really popular, and that's how malls are like reinventing themselves. And would that, by doing this amendment, would that like eliminate the possibility for the mall to have such a venue? Or is this like gasoline motor racetracks specifically?
Yeah, I know that there's like a go-karting
Right.
course in the Hampshire Mall and then also over in Hatfield. I don't know if that is categorized differently in terms of go-karts and motor cars, speedways.
I think this is like.
Like the real-
A real racetrack, because you're also talking the horse and dog racetracks, they would be outside too, so.
Mm.
I mean, to me, those are all outdoor.
Outdoor activity.
And if you've ever been to a auto race.
Yeah.
It's
I've
not
been.
quiet.
Yeah. Okay, so then the motion was made and seconded to strike items number 30 and 31 from the ordinance itself and then the corresponding table of uses. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's a 5-0 vote. So 5-0 striking 30, 31, just making my notes here. Any other discussion?
I have my hand up.
Thank you, Councilor Bacon, yes.
I'd like to offer an amendment where we change the planning board authority to approve this special permit and keep it with the city council.
Keep it where?
Which one?
Keep the special permitting authority throughout the ordinance with the city council rather than changing it from the city council to the planning board.
I'm not sure if we actually have permitting authority over a lot of these things to begin with.
Well, if you look at the chart,
yep,
it shows CC under the other zones, and it shows PB under the RC zone.
I see what you're talking about here.
And it's also in the language.
There are, what is this? Car wash. We do have special permit authority over car washes, which is new to the ordinance. In other zones other than the RC district. So the motion was made to amend all the planning board. It is unique, I'll say that much, that the planning board has the authority under the RC district when the city council has the authority according to the table of uses under all the other zones.
I'll second the amendment.
The motion has been made and seconded now to replace the planning board as the permitting authority with the city council. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
It's a 3-2 vote in favor of the recommendation to change the planning board authority to city council permitting as the permitting authority.
I'll make a motion we pass the RC zone as amended.
The motion has been made. I'll second it to pass the RC zone as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
That's a 2-3 vote against passage. I'll make a motion to reconsider our actions to pass the RC district as amended. So on the motion to reconsider our actions, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
So I need a
Aye.
thanks. 4-1 vote to reconsider. Under discussion.
I'm a little confused. What happened with the vote?
It failed, and then I motioned, as the maker of the order, I am invested in seeing this pass, and so I motioned to reconsider our actions. The motion to reconsider passed with a 4-1 vote, and now we're under discussion again.
I thought I heard a 3-2 vote that it passed. That's why I'm asking.
No, it failed by a 2-3 vote. Thank you. So I'll just say we've been working on this in this committee for a good part of this year, and then prior to this committee taking this up in this council, we had spent at least another year working on this. So we've really benefited in this committee from all the work that had gone into this previously. And I think that the proposed amendments that make it palatable to many members of this committee are reasonable. I think we're striking 2 uses, and we're putting the permitting authority with the city council, which is not the preference of the planning board who gave us this draft language, but it is in keeping with the other zones. So the city council does have permitting authority for these uses in all other zones except for the RC district. So I'm willing to move this forward with those, what I see as minor amendments. I don't know if anyone who had an objection wants to raise their objection. Councilor Bacon, is this your hand that's up?
Yes, it was another point in the ordinance that I didn't get to before the motion was made to move it. In our current ordinances, we have height limitations in SC, BH, and the others that are low, that allow by special permit for height restrictions to be released in special circumstances when safety and other considerations can be addressed. In this draft ordinance, it allows for a height of 9 stories in the RC zone, which is also listed to include a long list of properties. And I do not believe that we have any assurances from our safety departments relative to this height of buildings being permitted within an ordinance under a dimensional control. And I believe we should keep the height as it is, and that anything above the heights should continue to require a special permit of the city council, as we did with Mall to increase their height to the 8 stories as they requested. I really caution us to do wholesale zone change, increasing heights throughout the city to this degree. I don't think we've vetted that out, and it was never discussed much at all in the public hearings.
You know, if the mall has a height of 8 stories at this point in time, I'm willing to
just
change.
Just for the theater.
Right. So, but the point is, we're looking forward at the potential types of uses that could come into this area, and we want to make it as easy as possible for new large-scale businesses to site in this area. And so I think it makes sense to have one area of the city, and this seems to be the most appropriate area to have that large-scale big box development, and also hotels, theaters, or anything else that could use an extended clearance, height clearance. So it really, you know, I'm willing to amend it down to 8 stories and 80 feet, but really, I don't have a problem with it being 9 stories.
So if I can continue my point, the stated purpose of the ordinance is to strengthen retail and commercial. 8-story buildings are usually multiple housing units. They're not usually commercial entities, but more mixed use type of situation. So it seems like this is more creating a downtown zoning type of situation that we're trying to revitalize through our urban plan than it is to strengthen retail in the retail corridor, because 8 stories doesn't translate into retail. It translates into a completely different use. And I would encourage us to keep that as a special permit so that we know what's going on, and our fire and safety is aware of what developments might be going on, instead of creating these rights without any review relative to heights.
No, it says it is a review of the planning board, which we just amended to the city council, because it says maximum building height of a proposed structure in the RC zone may be increased to, so it puts a cap, to 9 stories or above by means of special permit of the planning board, which we amended in the other.
So can you show me, because I cannot find in the documents what the base is. All I can find is 8 or 9 for heights and stories. I cannot find a base and it used to be 2, then I don't know if it became something different, but I cannot find anything in the documentation that makes a new floor other than 8 or 9.
I'm looking for it. Setbacks. It doesn't say. So it says maybe increased so I think it's by right up to not 8 feet, and then it would be increased to 9 feet or above. So
Right, but it was 2 stories in our current zoning book. It's at 2 stories. So this is a significant.
There's nothing at any stories because this zone is a compilation of all the other zones.
Right. But in all of our zoning materials, we have heights allowed in each zone as part of our dimensional controls.
Right.
And so I'm looking for the minimum height to be the low number with the special permit controlling for it to be able to go up to 8 or 9. But the base height should remain whatever it is, which I think is 2.
The uses. I don't think it's 2. I mean,
if you look in our blue book,
it's in my desk. Hold on. Thank you. I haven't been in the chamber, so I don't have the, I thought I had a copy, but it's a different blue book. I will see if I could pull it up online, because that is a possibility these days. And all right, 2021. Yep. So if anyone is looking for it, if you just go to Google and type in Holyoke zoning ordinances, the book will appear magically. Okay. Location, height of accessory structures, but that's not what we're talking about.
It's the table of dimensional regulations, 5.2.
Thank you. Page 35. All right, so 35. Just switched it over. Swimming pools. It's amazing that we can do this. Max stories, 2.5, RM60, 7, BL, 2, BH, 2, BE, 4, IG, 4, IP, 7. So, go ahead, Councilor Bacon, you can finish your point.
We have very few IP zoned properties in the city, and we know that's industrial park. And RM60, we know are our apartment buildings, and we know where they exist. And to make this amount of changes the whole character of the corridor that you're seeking to put this zone on, and increases it above anything that currently exists in the city, other than the special permit we gave for the theater at the mall. And I just think we need to keep it at a base of 4, and anything that goes over that needs the special permit of the city council. Otherwise, we are doing a wholesale change in the character of the whole corridor, which is not in keeping with the stated goal of retail and commercial. It's the only thing that has heights of this is multifamily housing, which you've actually taken that right away from BH in this reconfiguration if it moves forward with the mandates that you propose. So on the one hand, you're increasing the height, but on the other hand, you're taking away the right for the BH zone owners. So it's kind of contradictory.
I'm just going back to the table of principal uses that we're considering. Multifamily dwellings are allowed in the RC district, but it's by a special permit of the city council. What's taken away is the lower density housing. So multifamily dwelling.
But right now they're allowed as of right in the BH zone.
Yeah, at 7 feet. I'm sorry, 7 stories. So I don't see it to be a dramatic change. I mean, I don't mind defining it.
No, the BH zone is still limited to 2 stories, but they are allowed multifamily housing by right under the BH zone. So with the retail center zone, you're taking away their right as of right to do multifamily housing, but you're also increasing the height, which right now they would need a special permit from the city council to increase that height to accommodate a use shift to multifamily housing. So on the one hand, the retail center is taking a right away, but it's expanding the height under a special permit provision, which already exists under a special permit provision.
Right, but the height.
So we should just leave the height alone at either the 2 or the 4 that exists in business. BH and BG are at 2. And BL is at 2.
I would say 6 is probably more appropriate because again, like
retail, commercial.
Yeah, because we're trying to allow for hotels in this area as well, because the original conversation is about how malls are becoming alls, that it's no longer just a shopping center, that recreation, dining, destination, travel are all happening around malls. And that we have seen is happening with the Holyoke Mall in terms of the increased number of entertainment and recreation venues that they're bringing in as a matter of survival. And so
the mall can already have a hotel under its BH zoning. It does not need a zone change to have a hotel.
No, but to have a hotel at 6 stories, it would. To have a hotel at more than 4 stories, yes, it would need this zone change, and that's what we're trying to create here.
It would need a special permit as it received for the theater.
Right, and
that's, I think, how it should be for all the properties. Otherwise, we're going to have no control over what's going on, and this is a wholesale change in character to the whole corridor.
So did you make your comment as a motion, as an amendment?
Well, I was trying to keep the height dimensional controls as they are currently, but allow, as we have under the special permit, for those heights to be exceeded.
Second that.
So we just amended the fence ordinance, right? And that allowed for above a certain height to be by special permit?
Yes.
And everything else?
And we already have language, special permit to exceed height limitations on the books 5.3.1, that the city council may grant a special permit for a structure in a various list of zones to exceed the height regulations imposed by the schedule of dimensional controls. So you could theoretically list our C zone there, keep it at the 2 or put it at the 2 or 4 and allow for it to be exceeded as it states in 5.3.1.
Sure, I don't mind changing it to 4 then if it's going to elicit additional support. So 4 by right, and then above that by special permit of the city council. So that motion was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Okay.
And I just have one more question about, I think I know the language that's here, but I'm always finding something that's surprising me.
Yep, same here.
There is nothing in this language that compels any property owner to have this zone if this zone is approved as it sits right now. Is that correct?
In this language that we're currently talking about in item number 6, no.
We are simply creating a zone that people could choose to apply to obtain if they desire. Yes?
Yes.
And right now, we're not putting this zone on any property, and there is no property owner who's come before us in the last 4 years to seek a zone change in this corridor, correct?
In the language that we're talking about, no, we're not creating any zone changes. However, the owner of the property with the shopping center district, the new owner, for which, I forget the engineer's name, Kevin Soley, spoke in favor. They submitted a letter saying that they're in support of the retail center zoning and zone change.
Right, so if the city council was to pass this zone change, then the property owner of the shopping center zone could apply for the retail center zone change, correct?
Well, that's what item number 7 is doing. It's creating, it's eliminating the shopping center district and replacing it with the retail center.
But the business owner should have to apply for a zone change. We shouldn't just give a zone change.
I mean, but then it comes at their expense. And,
Well,
and here they've already
as it-
expressed support, and we want to do this. But that, again, is item number 7 and not item number 6, which is before us now.
Okay, thank you.
So on item number 6, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt the creation of the retail center. Sorry, we already voted on the retail center creation by a. No, we're under reconsideration. Sorry, it's under reconsideration. So this is what we're reconsidering with the 2 prior amendments, and now we're considering a 3rd amendment. Okay, so just to recap, we're under reconsideration. We're considering the adoption of item number 6, which is to create a retail center zone. There are 3 amendments before us. The first amendment is striking 30 and 31, which relates to amusement parks and race car tracks, dog tracks. The second amendment is that the city council is made the permitting authority across the board and replacing the planning board where permitting authority is required. And now the third amendment, which has been proposed by Councilor Bacon, seconded by Councilor Murphy, that we go with a 4-foot height clearance by right and allow anything above by special permit. And we don't define above, we just say anything above by special permit of the city council. That was
4 foot?
4 foot was the base.
4
stories.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
4 stories, and in parentheses, 40 feet. 40 feet.
Okay.
4 stories or 40 feet, and allowing anything above that by special permit of the city council. That was passed with a 5-0 vote. So now, on the motion to approve the
zone with those amendments.
Yes, with all 3 amendments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Can I just, I can say yes, but I have to qualify my yes. Because I am only a yes if we do not automatically give zone changes or mandate zone changes to property owners. Because if that passes, then I can't support any of it.
That is not happening in item number 6.
I hear you. I'm just letting you know. Thank you. I'll be a yes for now.
Thank you. Item number 7 is actually a public hearing that's still being continued, so we need to entertain a motion to
Motion to
take
open
this
up the
up.
public hearing on number 7.
Motion has been made and seconded to open the public hearing on item number 7. This is a zone change proposal to have the city of Holyoke remove from its code of ordinances, Appendix A, zoning ordinance, section 8.3, shopping center districts, and any other references to said zone, and replace it with retail center. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
This is a public hearing. Item number 7, just to clarify, is looking to strike the SC Shopping Center District and replace it with the newly formed RC District that we just spoke about. We're still in public hearing, so are there any members of the public who wish to come forward and speak either in favor or against this? There doesn't seem to be anyone here in the chambers. Anyone online? It doesn't seem like there's anyone there either.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you. Motion has been made.
Wait. We're on item 7, right?
Yes.
And this is the item that lists all of the properties, the vast majority of whom we have heard nothing from.
No, this is item number 7, which is just looking to strike SC District and replace it with RC District.
Oh, in the version that I haven't, for some reason, I printed it off of my email. I must have a different version, I'm sorry.
You mean the order of the items?
Yeah.
Okay, so item number 7 is just the striking of the SC and replacing it with the RC. There's no members of the public in the chambers who wish to speak. It doesn't seem that there's anyone online. Councilor Murphy has motioned to close the public hearing. That motion was seconded by Councilor Anderson Burgos. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. The public hearing is closed. I believe that we have, sorry. Again, I think I read this into the last meeting minutes. Oh, they were switched on me. But the planning board supports this change. And that's where we see all the text that we've been considering. It was a little bit unorganized for me. Is there any further discussion from committee members? Councilor Bacon, is that your hand up?
Well, I just maintain, I understand a representative from the current owner of the property that's zoned shopping center came in support of changing to the retail center zone. We have modified what we are proposing to the city council at this point. Mm-hmm. And always for doing zone changes, we have the business owner proactively come forth to request the zone change. And in this circumstance where right up until now, and even until next Tuesday, we do not know if or what the zone change will be, it seems prudent that first we have to have the zone, and then property owners need to be able to read it, understand it, and then decide if they want to apply for it. I can understand somebody coming down and saying, theoretically they're in favor of it. And as the mall said, they're okay with it as long as they don't use any use. But if they lose use, then they're not okay with it. So I really think we have to keep the process clean and have property owners apply for zone changes where they want them. If we want to create a zone, then the zone should theoretically be available to anybody in the city. I mean, why should we say it's only for these people that might not even want it? Why not just have it be available for people who might want this zone for these uses? So I just think we can't pass a thing to say, you will have this, when right now we don't even know what this will be because the city council has not acted. I think we've got the cart before the horse here. But that's me.
Right, and points well taken. I would say that in this case, we're talking about the one parcel that was previously a spot zone and would still be a spot zone with the RC district. It would just have more updated set of uses. And the landowner as well as the engineer have both expressed support. I understand that there have been changes made, and I'm happy to take it upon myself to reach out to the landowner of this one parcel in particular to make sure that they're aware of the changes that we are making to the ordinance, and have a letter submitted to the full city council for our next meeting. So on the motion then, to adopt the order, which is to strike the SC district and replace it with the RC district. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
3-2 vote to strike SC district and replace with RC.
Make a motion, we open up the public hearing for item 8.
Motion has been made and seconded
Second.
to open the public hearing for item number 8. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. This is a public hearing for a zone change to rezone the following parcels to RC in an effort to create a cohesive regional destination of mixed commercial retail, which all property owners will share with the same regulations. And as a point, this is really what Councilor Bacon's points have been directed towards all along in terms of whether the city has the ability or should use its ability to create a zone change for the various parcels in this area, or if we should allow the landowners to come forward. I'm happy to table this and again work with each of these parcel owners to come forward and submit requests. But I think again we save these landowners and business owners the expense of having to apply for the zone change, and we could do it as a package if we engage them more directly. So I would say let's table this until February.
Motion to table till February. Do we have a certain date?
Second.
We need a certain date. So 22nd.
22nd, okay.
So number 8, the motion has been made to continue this to February 22nd at 6:30 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Councilor Bacon?
I guess so, yeah.
4-1 vote. Okay, item number 9.
Make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Motion has been made and seconded to open the public hearing to take up item number 9. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I am not seeing item number 9 as legal language in my package. There may not be any. In which case I would say tabling is in order.
Motion to table item number 9
Is there
to.
anybody that we have a public?
Oh, yep.
All right.
Sorry.
Um,
Good.
I doubt if we have anybody. But
Madam Chair, if I may,
Councilor Bacon.
the planning board continued their hearing to 1:25 regarding the swimming pool order. Just FYI.
125?
Yep.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, it doesn't seem that there's anyone here in chambers or online who wishes to speak at the public hearing for item number 9 regarding swimming pools.
Motion to continue the public hearing?
Motion has been made and seconded to continue the public hearing on item number 9.
January or February, since.
When did we say that we were meeting with the planning board as a joint body? Was that 3 or was it 3/8?
3/8/22, yeah.
Yeah, so we should probably table this till 3/8/22 then.
No, past 3/8/22. No.
Oh, they're considering it. Sorry, they're
Yes.
considering it, so we might have
They have-
something earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking it up on the 25th.
So then why don't we continue this to the 22nd as well?
Okay.
This is being continued to February 22nd at 6:30 PM. Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Item number 9, Councilor Bacon, I believe that this is your order, amending.
Yes.
It's a public hearing, so let's motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this public hearing has been opened regarding an amendment to the zoning ordinance to read that any home construction in a residential zone shall be greater than 50% living space. A special permit from the city council is required if the home construction will have 50% or less living space.
So the planning board opened the public hearing tonight and continued it, I believe, until March, because they need to do a lot of research relative to state law and some other local ordinances as it relates to this.
Okay.
And I believe the date they picked was March.
You you're not audible at the moment, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just looking to see if I can find the note to when they continued it to. Hang on.
It would be likely.
So they said they were going to research and continue. I wrote to January 25th at 5:30. I thought it was further into the future than that, but I guess.
We continued the sign ordinance with them to March, so maybe that's where that confusion came from.
I don't know, they said they had to do research and continue. For the signs, they're waiting for the legal form. This note that I wrote was before we had Ordinance Committee. I wrote this note after the planning board hearing at 5:30.
Well, let's continue to the 22nd, since it seems that we have a number of other planning board business that we're waiting for at that time, and if it's available, then
All right.
we can work with that.
All right.
Motion to continue the public hearing to, did you say the 22nd, February?
Yes, at 6:30 PM. Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. The next 2 items on our agenda are special permit applications. The public hearings are closed, and we're coming up on the 90-day statutory requirement to render a decision. I wasn't participating in these previous conversations, so I don't really know why they were tabled. But from what I've seen from the documentation here, we have not only a planning board letter and a response from H&H in one case, but we also have a response from the planning department that documents that the H&H responses are accepted. That's 12, and then in 11, we do have responses from the applicant in 11 as well.
So, Chair Lisi?
Councilor Bacon.
So my recollection of why they're tabled is because we were trying to still address the ordinance issues from the prior buffer changes and plan review matters that got sent back to committee at city council meeting.
Right, and that is before the full city council and table. So it seems that passing or granting the special permits are in order then, because that seems to be.
It would have to be pending the correct, I think we'd have to say pending amendments to the.
Well, they could
zoning
always be
ordinance.
tabled. They could always be tabled in full council if the other, but I think they should be moved forward. Otherwise, we're going to come up against that statutory timeline, and they'll be granted by default. And I think we want to have.
I'm just saying that we would just qualify it. That's all. I'm not saying we shouldn't act on it.
Does anyone object to taking them up as a package?
Could we send them to the council without a recommendation until we get the amendment? Is that possible?
I think we
Because-
want to act on this as if the amendments
But
that are tabled.
Can I ask legal a question then?
Sure. Motion to suspend the necessary rules and allow legal to speak.
Second.
Attorney Deegan, just so, obviously we've had some confusion on the 200-foot buffer zone and what it entails, and we're working to get that corrected. But if we were to recommend passing this, but the ordinance that's currently in effect would not allow these, does that create a legal problem?
Well, here's the thing, because I don't think that correcting the buffer zone issue is really gonna be a problem, in that I've been working with Attorney Bissonnette to get that language. So I guess if you feel that this ordinance change will pass, then I think we avert the issue. On the other hand, if this body is thinking, hey, wait a minute, I'm not sure if this is going to pass, then it could be. It could be. So I don't think the amendment is going to be hard to get down, from a language perspective. So I mean, I think what does this body feel is going to happen? If there's any feeling, what's going to happen with the chances of passing this change to the buffer zone?
But if we don't make the change, and we pass the special permit, then it appears we would be subject to potential legal issues that way too. Or am I?
Well, no, I mean, I understand your point. Does it create a legal issue? One thing that I would be concerned about, and particularly with H&H, because it's my understanding that they filed for the special permit application before, with respect to the old zoning ordinance. Now, maybe I'm not correct about that. So we don't want to have a problem the other way either, So what I'm thinking is that, yes, could there be an issue if it doesn't pass? Yes. But, with respect to that one particular applicant, if I'm right about what happened with the history there, I think not granting the special permit would also be a problem.
So whatever
If I may.
let me just.
Counselor Murphy has the floor, and then I'll recognize Counselor Bacon.
So if I could ask Attorney Deegan if it's possible to kind of, whatever we send out tonight, that if we could have kind of a legal explanation sent to counselors beforehand, so that if we know if we're doing these are potential legal issues one way or the other, so that if we do this, we can pass this and there's not a problem. If we do this, we got a concern, because I just want to make sure that I've got a full understanding of, am I violating someone's rights? Am I having somebody getting a permit and someone else suing because the ordinance didn't allow the permit, and those kind of things, so.
Yeah, no, that can certainly be done. Okay. And also, perhaps it might be a good idea to have the buffer zoning, the actual language to change the buffer zone be in front of the city council for the 21st.
Okay.
Simultaneously.
Oh, it'd have to be.
Yeah.
Well, the language is tabled from our last meeting. So it is before the full city council. There were some redundancies in the way that was written, so I do think that we want to have a more cleaned up copy to consider, but it's on our agenda as a tabled item. And I would imagine, if these get approved or pushed from committee to the full city council and we didn't make that corresponding change to the ordinance, that we could just table these items as well. But if we leave them here for too long, they are going to pass as a default once we hit that 90-day mark. And then we wouldn't have any conditions on them if we're not taking that action this evening or at the first ordinance committee meeting of the next year. Councilor Bacon, I'm sorry, your hand was up.
I was just going to share that my recollection of the issue of one of the applicants was that when they went to read the ordinance, the old ordinance was still posted where there was really an updated ordinance in effect. So it has been complicated and messy, I will grant you that. But for myself, if we're going to take up the tabled item, my understanding at City Council is that there was just some further language changes that were not present there that needed to be made. And if that's going to come up first, then I think we could move forward with these that are otherwise, to my recollection, fairly standard.
Yeah, I agree. It is a public hearing. If there's no other comments from committee members, I would invite, we have... Oh, I'm sorry. These are closed public hearings. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So is it the will then to take these up as a package?
I'll make that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to take up these two items as a package. They both are special permits for marijuana establishments. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. So to use the language that Councilor Bacon stated, they're pretty standard applications. They have been vetted by the planning department. The letter submitted to the applicant from the planning department has been responded and addressed by the applicant. So there's been a back and forth twice now. They've been vetted and closed in a prior public hearing, which is now closed. So it seems that a motion is in order to grant the special permit with the standard 5 amendments.
And I would just make I know I'm not going to win, but I'm going to make the amendment anyway, so that you show that I'm not doing it for one, I'm doing it for all, because I do think everything I've read about odor is going to be an issue, and we need to get some kind of policy to deal with it that is not just saying, well, we're stuck, and just kind of go with the smell. It's just not so I'm going to make that, I'll make it a motion that we include in 30-day odor remediation once notified.
And I'll second that.
The motion has been made and seconded to create an additional 6th amendment that says that there shall be no odor issues. If there are odor issues, they should be mitigated within 30 days. All in favor of that additional 6th amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. So that motion fails 3-2, and the original 5. The original 5 conditions state that the owner of the building always pay commercial property tax rate to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for the duration of the special permit. 2, that the business retain a minimum of 30% Holyoke residents for non-security jobs. 3, that hiring preference be given to security personnel that are retired Holyoke police or are a retired member of another police department who now lives in the city of Holyoke. 4, there shall be no marijuana consumption to be allowed on site. And then it's actually not the deliveries one, it's the last one, that hours of operation reflect the ordinances. All in favor of those, granting the permit with those 5 amendments?
Aye.
Sorry, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
It's a 3-2 vote in favor. These permits are granted and will come before the full city council next week.
Motion to adjourn.
Pending the...
Sorry.
That's okay. Pending the passage of the amended buffer zone language that's before the council on the table. Okay.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. Another late night for the Ordinance Committee with a lot of really hefty issues. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Chair Lisi.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.